talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 10:01, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. England new boy Elliot Anderson's hoping Nuno is still in charge when he gets back to Forest.
I feel like he's just given me the sort of the freedom to go out there and do what I do. He just believes in me. I think really it's the main thing.
Nuno Espirito Santo is set for peace talks with Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis over the international break. Meanwhile, following his argument with West Ham fans, Jared Bowen's told talkSPORT he'll never hide away from criticism.
We've all put that behind us and we won on Sunday, and you see the celebrations that we had after the game Sunday. So in football you go through a lot of bad times, but when the good times come as well, you enjoy them that little bit more because you've been through those tough times.
More tough times could be on the way. West Ham fans have issued a vote of no confidence in the board over lack of investment. Supporters have been telling talkSPORT why they're so angry.
What West Ham fans want to see is an ownership that shows the love and compassion and drive to want the club to do well.
What I expect from West Ham is a clear vision, not like reacting to what others are doing or what the people are saying.
If a manager's available, that's who we'll bring in. I've really got big doubts about Potter himself.
West Ham have now offered to meet fans threatening to boycott the next 2 home games. FIFA's confirmed dynamic pricing will apply to all 104 matches at next summer's expanded World Cup. A seat at the final currently costs £5,000. Group stages start at £45, but prices could get up to 4 times more expensive. And on WSL transfer deadline day, Arsenal confirmed the departure of Champions League winning midfielder Leah Valti after 7 seasons. We're also expecting midfielder Grace Clinton to do a Tevez and move from Man United to Man City today. All the latest at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
It's understood Angela Rayner took legal advice from 3 separate people who all said her stamp duty payment was correct, and investigators in Lisbon are investigating what caused a tram to derail, leaving 17 dead. There's more from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With a huge range of premium brands available, we've got what you need to drive away happy every time. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Outbreaks of rain, some heavy and thundery, gradually clearing northeastwards from England and Wales. Otherwise, sunshine and showers, breezy in the south.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan. We're live on talkSPORT. So West Ham fan submits a letter of no confidence in the board. But is it worth the paper it's written on? Meantime, will Lucas Paqueta sue the FA? Also today, do Sefrin's arguments on multi-club ownership stack up? Has the Premier League created a race to the bottom across Europe? Should sport be dictated to by protesters? Dutch football royalty, Mark van Bommel, will join us on the show. And from midday, we go through all the top boxing stories with fight pundit Spencer Oliver, Jim White and Simon Jordan. And we're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Did you get wet?
No.
I noticed you come in with your brolly there.
In preparation.
Yeah.
I have a meeting in town later on this afternoon and I don't want to get caught short.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because I hate smelling like damp dog.
And you don't want to get soaked either.
Indeed.
Good luck to the Welsh up against Kazakhstan tonight. A World Cup qualifier. Craig Bellamy, he's only lost 1 in 10. You like Craig, don't you? He's only lost 1 in 10.
I do. I like the fact that he's very passionate.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't always agree with Craig back in the day when he was a player, but I liked him when I met him, and I've done television shows with him. I mean, he's not going to solve any Mensa puzzles, but then again, who is? But what he's done with the Welsh is reinstated some pride and belief in them, and I'm really pleased for him. He had a difficult period of time where he came up against a couple of controversies and maybe had to adapt his management style.
Yeah.
But he would have learned a lot, working under Vincent Kompany at Burnley. Obviously, if you lose and get relegated, then the blueprint for that is to get a big job. So he's got the Welsh job.
Sure. Yeah. Good luck to them tonight in Kazakhstan. Won't be a straightforward affair for them, though, but I do hope they win it. Lucas Paqueta, will he sue the FA? We'll get to that shortly. For any budding presenters out there, in the introduction there, I looked at Paqueta and I thought, Paqueta, and I came in between the two.
Paqueta is Spanish for parcel.
Paqueta. Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Baggage, yeah. I get regularly called that by my pedal friends. I'm a paqueta on the pedal tennis court.
You're a parcel on the tennis
parcel
court.
that nobody wants to pass around.
Before I move on, actually, to matters West Ham, are you or are you not, after all these years, in the place you call home, Spain, are you fluent in Spanish?
Nah. When I was younger, I was very good. But as I've gotten older, I've got worse and 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 worse.
Right.
Because everybody in Spain, when you start speaking to them in Spanish, speaks back to you in English. In that part of Spain, in the way of Andalusia.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So. Andalusia. See.
So okay. I'm okay, but not brilliant.
Okay, but not brilliant. You're pretty darn brilliant on this, I'll tell you. And today I don't think will be any exception. Incidentally, as well as listening to us, you can watch the show, Simon and myself, coming live on your TV, Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android, Google TV, even Prime Video.
This is longer than those bloody Oasis reads.
This is true. Wherever you watch, we are here for you. This growing TV audience. It's alarming many people out there, and it's pleasing many of you, so we're delighted about that. Here's the thing. West Ham fans submitting a letter of no confidence in the board. West Ham United's official fan advisory board, which is said to represent 25,000 supporters, has issued a letter of no confidence in that board amidst plans for the fans to boycott 2 home fixtures and stage protests outside the London Stadium before each game. The games involved the game against Crystal Palace on September the 20th, the other game against Brentford on October the 20th, both of which, of course, will be televised. Yep. But they will be outside in numbers, we are being told, protesting in the board, saying they have no confidence in the board. What else do they say? Well, the supporter groups blame the club for not putting in place better scouting and recruitment departments, as well as training facilities. The impact of the lack of investment, the supporters claim, threatens the team's chances of staying in the Premier League. The letter of no confidence that was sent to the board says, to the shareholding directors of West Ham, it is with regret that we feel we need to write to you on behalf of the 25,000 or more dedicated West Ham fans that we, the members, directly represent. We now have no choice but to issue a vote of no confidence in relation to the board's management of the club. You have no doubt heard our members are calling for multiple protests at forthcoming games. We have now no choice but to support those calls and are engaging with the relevant authorities to ensure lawful compliance. I know you're fit to be tied to get into this. Before we get to it, just the other day, director Karen Brady was on the Sunday edition, and curiously, she was talking about the need for unity.
A lot of people, they look at club directors and they think we're quite remote, or they think we don't care in the way that supporters care. Trust me, we care. Yesterday hurt us as much as it hurt them. We're always thinking about what can we do every day to make the club better. All we want to do is fulfill all our hopes and dreams and expectations our supporters have. We're all supporters of the club. We're thinking all the time, what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? How can we improve? And when you don't get the results that you want, you're thinking about it even harder. And there is a pressure associated with that. We know our supporters have huge expectation. We have it ourselves. But clubs that do well are the clubs where everybody sticks together. When things are going good, nobody needs support. It's when things are tough, when things are not going the way that you want, how you support each other, how you lean on each other, how you create a trust circle, an embrace of support. That's so important.
So the fans didn't really listen to Karen. And will continue not to listen, because West Ham's official fan advisory board, 25,000 fans it represents, say we've no confidence in you, and they will protest in big numbers, they hope, outside the game before the match against Palace, and outside the stadium in before the match against Brentford on September the 20th and October the 20th, respectively. A letter of no confidence in the board, Simon. Is it worth the paper it's written on?
Very different looking Karen there. Didn't recognise her. Is it worth anything? Yeah. I mean, there's pressure behind it. It's a pressure group. Does it have any constitutional leverage? Not really. What is its end game? What does it achieve? It probably gets an audience with the West Ham board to explain their thinking, and obviously all these experts in the fan base that know very much about scouting networks and are very conversant with all aspects of running a football club will have their ability to express their views on what they're disappointed about. Obviously, some of the wind would have been taken out of their sails by the fact that the disappointment they must have of West Ham smashing Nottingham Forest on the weekend, 3-0, to arrest some of their concerns about what's happening on the field.
Yeah.
But they have every right to express their views. We have a new generation of football fans, which the independent football regulator seems to want to embrace, and have fun and games with these sort of people that are activists, that believe that there's a sense of entitlement. I wrote an article in the Mail a few months ago about my belief that the sense of entitlement has increased in the way football fans approach their football club. It's a balancing act.
I'm looking at that.
It's a balancing act.
I'm looking at your column. Football fans are becoming too entitled.
Well, yes, I think that was in direct relation to the idea that they were unhappy with how much money Todd Paulie had spent on football players, which I found perplexing. And I'd heard it all that time.
Are these West Ham fans who are going to protest? And interestingly, the board say they'll meet them.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
But are these West Ham fans too entitled?
How can you be too entitled? I mean, there's a balancing act between what you want from fans and what you expect. We spent all of COVID bemoaning the lack of fans and how important they are. And then when you get the reality of what football fans are, post-COVID, we've got a different society. People expect different things. They expect to sit on their backsides at home and be fed by the state, some people. The idea that football fans shouldn't have a say, it's a balancing act. And it's been bred by thought processes, by weak governments that are now putting in place football governance bills because it's populist and they think they're appealing to an audience that can get them votes.
If you were David Sullivan, would you meet the fans?
Absolutely.
What would you say to them?
I would espouse them of some facts and engage with them in a way, because often to a lesser degree, I had challenges at the early part of my tenure at Palace, and I sat with them and sat with the fans, and you find that the wind goes out very quickly of their sails when they're confronted with a bit of reality. Now, David Sullivan is no friend of mine. I do think he operates football clubs in a certain way, and I think the Birmingham fans, despite the fact they disliked him intensely at the time, never had it so good than when Sullivan and Gold were there. And they've never had it so good since. Now, they may well be on the rebuild after dropping down to League One, and they may well have aspirational ideas in their future because they've got a new set of ownership. But between Sullivan's departure and where they are now, they've been a car crash of a football club. Now, West Ham have never liked Sullivan. They never liked David Gold, God rest his soul. And they didn't like the move from the Berlin to the taxpayer stadium. Every London football club would have taken that opportunity. Whether they handled that the right way is a different matter. And the fans have a right to have an opinion. I think we do live in an age where activism seems to be at the front of people's minds. I do think there is a pushing up against the line of what is reasonable to expect from your football club and what you think you're entitled to. And there's a balance between that. And the difficulty is that football, whilst it is a business, and it'll be fascinating to see, as I mentioned earlier on, how this independent regulator, which is with IFR, I would say an independent fan regulator is probably the correct terminology, given the fact they seem to want to embrace them so much, how he's going to deal with these sort of things.
Yeah.
But yes, of course I would meet with them. Not 25,000, but they're representatives. And then what will happen is they'll go back to their 25,000 people and they'll have infighting amongst themselves about how they didn't get the answers that they thought they were going to get.
Well, this is it. What is it
they want? They want a change of ownership, do they?
I think ultimately they do.
Yeah, that's easier said than done, isn't it? That's easier said than done. It's one thing telling people what you don't like. It's much more difficult to tell people what you do like and how you're going to achieve it. What does a better scouting network look like, and how is it achieved, and how bad is West Ham scouting network? Obviously, currently at this moment in time, you're seeing a malaise in the team, and the question is, how much money do West Ham have? Why aren't they spending it? And are they within the confines of PSR? And Sullivan and his cronies, cohorts, are going to be able to answer those questions.
You see, I think, Simon, personally speaking, and I was there around the time that it happened. I was at the stadium, the Upton Park Stadium, for the last game. And I knew how passionate the fans were about that place, about that stadium, and they didn't want to move. Do you feel they lost the fan base as soon as they moved to the London Stadium a venue they have never taken to and never will.
I don't think any of the West Ham owners have curried much favour with the fans. I don't think Terry Brown was put up on a pedestal by the West Ham fans.
David Gold?
I don't think. Well, David Gold and David Sullivan were almost physically attacked by the West Ham fans.
I remember.
You know, and then you had the Icelandic guy that almost bankrupted the club.
Egert Magnusson.
Yeah, and so I don't think they've been happy with their owners. I don't think any football. I mean, you've even got to the point now where the Manchester City fans, in part, have been unhappy with with Sheikh Mansour's ownership, which is unfathomable because everything that Man City is now has been curated by his money and his desires.
Yeah.
And now that they want to put some ticket prices up or they want to change the policies around ticket pricing, there's uproar at Manchester City, or there was. So I think it's a very difficult line to walk of being what is the definition of a good owner? That is an interesting phenomenon. What does a good owner look like? Some people would say that a good owner is Steve Parish at Crystal Palace because he's put them in the Premier League, kept them there. They've never had any real financial troubles, got through COVID and been a relatively successful Premier League. So other people would say that that's a bad owner because he's got no ambition, doesn't desire to push forward, hasn't pushed the envelope, could lose Oliver Glasner because he allowed XYZ players to be sold or not sold.
Yeah, let's
It's
put
such
it
a
out
moving
there.
feast.
So the West Ham fans who are signatories to this letter of no confidence in your board, you're not happy. What is the definition, in your eyes, of a good owner? And are you going to protest before the game against Palace on September the 20th and before the game against Brentford on October the 20th? And if so, what about? And why? And what will it achieve? May as well join us this morning. We'll have this out. 03717 223344 81089. Bit of Dutch football royalty will join the show later this morning about 11:30. Mark van Bommel, once of a variety of top clubs: PSV, Bayern Munich, Barcelona and Milan. 700 appearances. He will join us live on the show. Recently in line for the Rangers job, but that went to Russell Martin. We'll get to that shortly. In the meantime, it's Jim White, Simon Jordan this Thursday morning, Thursday, September the 4th. We'll talk boxing later, but there might be a bit of boxing very soon between the board of West Ham and some of the fans. The fans are not happy. The West Ham fans, the official fan advisory board, which represents 25,000 of them, have issued a letter of no confidence, a vote of no confidence in the board, and they will demonstrate before the game against Palace on September the 20th and before the game against Brentford on October the 20th. But what's it all about? Why do they not wish to proceed with the current board in place? 03717 223344. James is a big West Ham fan. James, good morning. Do you also have no confidence in your current board?
Absolutely no confidence whatsoever. Morning, Jim. Morning, Simon.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you outright, the owners have overpromised and underdelivered to every single West Ham fan out there, and that means they've got our backs up. And if you talk about the team performance and the business decisions around those player purchases, look, this clearly hasn't made sense, because if the business decisions have made sense and then the team had performed on the pitch, yeah, we could wear that, you know. But the fact is, West Ham fans, as we are kicking off because there's a major problem here. The business decisions aren't making sense. The team's underperforming. And what's happening is that they've made things like player acquisitions that just aren't going to fit into a system. We don't understand why they're doing the business for these players and the style of football that we want to see, and we want the system that plays. Choosing these players just doesn't work. So Graham Potter, that we all know, is a long-term development style manager. So academy level, nurture and grow the development of the academy to fit into the system. Now, none of this business sense seems to hit at the board level. Simon, can you help me out here and try and paint me a story of why West Ham are making these decisions? Sorry, the board are making these decisions.
No, not really, because I'm not studying what you're doing at youth academy level. I'm looking at your accounts and seeing that you've got plenty of room financially, looking at your accounts and seeing you've got plenty of room with regards to PSR. A lot of your profitability last year was underpinned by Declan Rice's transfer. Otherwise, you'd have been a loss-making business. But you certainly don't have any problems around PSR or around profitability of the business. So that means that there's money around to buy players. I cannot delineate the structure of why West Ham aren't producing young players. You can't deal with the long-term positioning of a football manager because you have to deal with it in the short term. Yeah. So it's great to say that Graham Potter is a long-term football manager, but he still has to produce results in the immediate term. So no, I can't answer your question about what their decision-making processes are, about who they buy and why they buy these players.
But James, the bottom line is, though, when you return, you are up against Tottenham Hotspur at home, 5:30 kickoff. Will you get right behind the team?
We get behind the team every single time we turn up at the London Stadium. That's another bone of contention, the London Stadium.
You're not having it, are you?
Obviously. No, we're not. I mean, it's getting better, I'll be honest, but the way that it was done. Back to Magnussen, when in 2006, when Golden Sullivan bought 50% of the club, I think for 50 million. And Simon just brought up Declan Rice, yeah. So in 2006, you buy half the club for 50 million and then you sell Declan Rice for 105 million, one player. That's not bad business, is it? But back to that again.
It depends on how you've had to bankroll the club for the previous 15 years, doesn't it?
Well, there is that, but they're businessmen and they did it at Birmingham, right? So they did it successfully at Birmingham.
Yeah,
but
they did.
What we're going to do, though, is we were promised Premier Football for the stadium that we were going to get, and we haven't got that, Simon. So at the end of the day, if we were getting great football and on the pitch, then we wouldn't have anything to say about the way the business was being run.
Right, okay. James, thanks for that. Carl's another big West Ham fan. Carl, good morning. I take it you will be part of the protest?
No, I won't be part of the protest, but your question was what makes a good owner. I would say two things that would help is don't move fans to a stadium they didn't want to go to, and then once you've moved them to that stadium, don't break promises that were made, specifically we were told when we were going to move stadium that there would be seating that would be moved over the track, retractable seating, so that we would at least be near the pitch to create an Upton Park-like atmosphere.
Right.
That didn't happen.
I do know, Carl, that is a big beef, isn't it, of many West Ham fans, that after the final game at Upton Park, I think it was Tuesday, May the 10th, 2016, you beat Manchester United. There and then, the fans said, yeah, but we're not having this new place. Is that right?
Correct. We didn't want to go, but once we got there, we were expecting to see the seats next to the pitch. We'd had glossy brochures explaining how that seating would work, and that hadn't been delivered on. So based on that, you've got unhappy fans. It's a horrible stadium. Nobody enjoys going there. If they'd just kept that promise, then at least it would have given the stadium a chance, but that happened. Could I make one additional point, please?
Yeah.
It's completely off topic, but VAR hasn't worked. Myself, like Simon, thought it would be a good idea. It hasn't been a good idea. We just need to have the humility to admit that and return to proper football.
That's really not going to happen, Carl. That's never going to happen. But thanks for the call. Here's Chris, another big West Ham fan. Chris, do you feel the same as Carl, that you simply are not having the London Stadium, and that is at the centre of all of this?
Yeah, I don't. But I think where it started from, and a lot of fans, they got off on the wrong foot. They made a lot of promises they couldn't keep. And the sort of question for Simon is, we sold Upton Park for however much money it was, and it seemed like they lied to get. They said that the London Stadium would be state of the art. It'd be the best stadium in the country, in Europe. To lie to get us there, because when you got there, you quickly realised it wasn't. They didn't put all fans together. It's called the Soldiers Bowl for a reason. But what I understand is, we sold Upton Park for the land. They've sold it off and made money on it. So they didn't have to pay out to get a new stadium, i.e. like Arsenal, Tottenham, Everton. So they shouldn't. To what I understand, where's all the money? Because they haven't paid out any money. The training ground is apparently not up to stat. The stadium isn't great.
One of the answers to that question, and I am really loath to defend Sullivan on anything, is you guys would have been bleeding out of your eyes during COVID. So some of the economics that were plugged, I suspect, by some of the gain and opportunities. I'm looking at your transfer spend over the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Your net transfer spend is probably about 250 million over the last 5 years. So despite the Declan Rice transfer, you're spending more money on transfers than you're receiving. Your profits are okay, but I would imagine to some part, alongside the Czech billionaire putting some money in, which probably went into the pockets of the shareholders, that some of the money that was either taken from the sale of the Berlin or whatever, how they constructed it, found its way into funding some aspects of the football club. Because not every year is the club making money. Not every year has the club had good returns on transfers like Declan Rice. So I would imagine, like most football clubs, Palace took John Textor in. Look what happened there. They took John Textor in during COVID. They sold 40% of their shares for 100 million quid to bankroll themselves through COVID. I would imagine that West Ham had some capital reserves as a result of the sale of the Berlin and ultimately used that to weather certain storms.
They are pleading poverty, but they've made no...
But are they pleading poverty, though? That's your version of events, right? Are they coming out and saying we've got no money? Because they can't support that position because their accounts don't support it. So it would be a ridiculous position for them to advance.
Well, you obviously lot more intelligent than I am about that. But what they're saying to the fans is we can't buy any more players until we sell, which is why we sell Kudos. We try to get people on loan, get people out on loan before we sign.
Yeah, but Chris,
players.
you've just bought Matthias Fernandes from Southampton for 38 million.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They have to sell before they can buy it. They said to the fan base that they've got no money.
You bought Kilman for 40. Somerville for 25.
But that's 2 years ago.
Fulkrug for 23.
That's 2 years ago. But that's patently untrue because you can see, I mean, whether there's a lack of cash is one thing, but there certainly isn't a lack of profitability. Now, whether they've lost a huge amount of money on the 24-25 season, which their accounts haven't been produced for yet, I don't know. What I can tell you is just having a little eyeball at their 23-24 accounts, they booked 61 million profit. Now, a lot of that's player trading, absolutely. But notwithstanding that, they're still carrying decent headroom. So if they have got no cash, you have to ask yourself why they wouldn't have any cash, because you guys can patently scrutinise that and say, well, hang on a second, that's not true. So I understand your point of view. Whether it's a great thing to protest and get 25,000 people to jump up and down to change ownership, which is not going to happen, and the ownership that comes in is still going to have you at the stadium. You're still going to have your underlying grudge, which is that you're sitting in a stadium that you don't want to be at. That's
precisely it, Simon, and that's not going to go away. We'll keep an eye on the protests. In the meantime, it's 10:30. Good morning, everybody. Jim White, Simon Jordan, live on talkSPORT. As I said earlier, Mark van Bommel will join us in about 1 hour. A lot to get through with him. A man who's done a lot in the game, both as a player and hopes to do more as a manager.
Look at the clubs he's played
Clubs
for.
are incredible, Simon.
Yeah.
PSV, Bayern, Barcelona, Milan.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And a Dutch international to boot. We carry on. It's a bit of a West Ham theme this morning. We make no apology for that. Lucas Paqueta and West Ham United said to be considering legal action against the FA for damages over his collapse move to Manchester City. Now, you might recall, in July, Paqueta was cleared of charges of spot fixing after it was alleged he deliberately got booked to allow others to bet on. The FA alleged that, quote, at least 253 separate bettors placed bets on Paqueta to be booked in 4 Premier League matches across 2 seasons. The FA said, quotes, at least 26 of those bettors can be linked to the player. Almost £47,000 was bet, returning a profit of £167,000. Those charges were found not to be proven. Lesser charges of failing to answer questions and provide information to the FA's investigation were found proven. But the big question is this morning, will Lucas Paqueta sue the FA? Partner level and head of Paqueta's legal team is Alistair Campbell, and Alistair joins us live. Alistair, good morning to you. I'll ask you the question. Will Paqueta sue the FA?
Well, I can't say anything more at the moment than it's under consideration. He's obviously very upset at what he's lost and is considering all his options at the moment.
What kind of a mood is he in after this episode in his life?
He's in a fantastic mood. He's had this hanging over him for 2 years, and it's really affected him mentally. It's affected him on and off the pitch, and to have that kind of cloud lifted, he feels like he's got a lot of freedom. He's playing with a lot of freedom, playing very well. So that's really good to see.
I'm asking you to tell me what his intentions are, but you can answer the question as to whether you believe there's strong legal grounds for potentially launching some form of claim for damages against the FA.
I think it's certainly worth looking at. The ultimate decision will be up to Lucas, and at the moment, his focus is on football. His focus is on playing for Brazil, playing for West Ham, and what he's lost. If you think about it, it's really more than just finance.
It's reputation as well.
Opportunity, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Which was always my question. My question about the situation was, insofar as the FA, I had no particular view besides the questions that were put in front of me about Lucas Paqueta. But I was always of the belief that if the FA were going to bring such a case to put a man's livelihood into such jeopardy, that they must have strong grounds. Now, reading through the documentation that I've seen, which is albeit slightly limited, it would appear that they didn't. It would appear that it's quite a spurious claim. And so, again, the question abounds. If that's the case, there is a real case against the FA for not just the loss of opportunity, but reputational damage, because as you will appreciate, there's an element of defamation to this. If you're alleging somebody has done something so significant in terms of bringing the integrity of the game into play, then there has to be some real significant remedy rather than just, oh, we're sorry and we'll pick up your costs.
Well, as I say, he's obviously very upset with the whole episode, but it's not about money for Lucas and picking up costs and suing the FA. You can't sue the FA to force through a move that never happened or provide him with a trophy that he never won because that move collapsed. And that's kind of his career is really what's upset him about it. No disrespect at all to West Ham. He loves the club. You see that at the moment, but he was very close to that dream move. So he's obviously
all right. Well, let's park that up for a second because you don't want to dance that dance. But what do you think about the FA's position, the FA's conduct and the case that the FA brought? Because given the fact that it seems to have been shut down, it almost feels like there could have been a position in a legal term where a strikeout came into play because they seem to have presented no case.
I mean, you used the word spurious earlier, and I don't think it was a spurious case. There are points in the judgment where the Commission says, look, there are good reasons to have been suspicious about this, and we never shied away from that as an issue. But once you really got into the detail, once you looked at it forensically and with an expert eye, it didn't show what the FA were alleging.
But again, reading through from the layman's point of view, the supposition seems to be 247 bets placed on the fact he gets yellow cards in games with an indexing of 23 people that might have known him. Was that the basis of the FA's case?
Yes, so the information comes in through betting companies and the International Betting Integrity Agency that they see suspicious betting patterns on these games, and it's then up to the FA to investigate that, and that's what they did. And they obviously thought that it showed that Lucas was passing information to these people that he was connected to.
Right.
And we were fortunate enough to be able to show that that just wasn't the case. He handed over his phones to the FA. They went through those
with disappearing WhatsApp messages. Yeah, that ultimately
searched them in any way, and there was nothing at all on there to do with betting. And you see that in other cases.
Right. What's the issue? What's the issue with the FA's betting integrity investigator not appearing to be independent? What's the assertion behind that?
Well, he's an FA employee,
right?
And so that's his job, and not to take anything away from him, he's very good at it. But what we were able to do is bring in somebody independent to look at these patterns and say, I have no connection to either of the parties here, and when I look at these patterns, I don't see a spot fix.
Alistair, what was your reaction when you realised that the FA's barrister said they disagreed with the governing body's own expert that the betting was, quote, hugely orchestrated? What did you think then?
Well, our case was always that it wasn't orchestrated, because orchestrated is something that you associate with a spot fix. You see people organise, you see information kept within a tight group, and you see that group placing consistent maximum bets, trying to extract as much money from the arrangement as possible. And that's not what we saw there. And so I think what the FA's barrister was doing is trying to align his case with ours and say, even though you don't see this, it still shows a spot fix. But fortunately, the Commission didn't agree with that.
Did you advise Paqueta not to provide certain information to the investigation?
When we first started, and you've got to remember this is 2 years ago, Lucas was invited to interview. And at that point in time, we didn't have any information, really. And so we were concerned that he was going to go in there and walk into a trap. And so we wanted more information. We felt it was fair to provide more information. And so that's what we advised him. And, ultimately, the Commission has found against us on that. But he did provide the information shortly after his interviews. So once the information we felt was lacking was then provided, he then answered those questions in writing.
So that doesn't sound particularly fair. I mean, if you're not aware of what someone's being charged with and the details of what they're being charged with, it's not unreasonable to ask to be told what it is that you're answering towards before you start getting into a disclosure stage. Do you not think that's a bit harsh of the FA? If you were going further down the line and continuing to deny or provide information through the disclosure period, but at the beginning of the circumstances where you're understanding what it is you're being asked to answer to, do you not think that's a bit harsh of the FA's panel to be able to determine that as a lack of cooperation on the part of your client?
It's a question of degree, and this was the argument that we were having over these charges, that we felt there wasn't enough information provided, and the FA felt that they had done enough and provided enough information for Lucas to be able to answer questions, and ultimately the Commission sided with them on that particular aspect. But the overriding, the much more serious.
It's a small win for them, isn't it?
Yeah. Alistair, we might finish on this. Am I right in thinking that the panel also described Paqueta and his wife as religious people who have no interest in betting.
That's absolutely right. I mean, Lucas is very religious. Faith is his first thought about everything, and it's the same for his wife. They attend church and services. I think they listen to them from Brazil online every week. And as I said earlier, there was just nothing at all on his phone, nothing in his life to do with betting, no reference to the horses or roulette or anything like that. And I think that was a powerful piece of evidence in his favour, because if he was betting, if he was interested in spot fixing and arranging these things and passing information, that would have been found on his phone.
Based upon what you've seen, and given the fact that you've got a series of legitimate concerns about the way that the FA advanced their handling of the case in terms of lack of independence around their own betting investigator, do you think their whole process was fit for purpose? Do you think what they did was fit for purpose?
I think they had legitimate concerns, and the way they ran the process, obviously it's taken a very long time, and that's the cause of some frustration. But it's a very complicated case. You can see from the length of the document that's been produced, some 300 plus pages, all of the experts that were called. So it was always going to be a very long process when it was that complicated. And, as we've never shied away from saying, these look suspicious, and it was only with that, by going through that process, by putting together all that information, that we were able to show that they weren't.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because they seem to be playing hide and seek with themselves over using inappropriate investigative analysts within the confines of their own business, opening themselves up to a query of lack of independence. And then you've got their own counsel appearing to disagree with the primary position of the FA. That doesn't feel like a process that's fit for purpose.
Well, I mean, you see the Commission saying that that's a surprising development, I think was their words. And the FA's legal team and their counsel, they're good lawyers. They'll look at what's happened and they'll take lessons from it, like any good lawyer will.
And just finally, maybe in a sentence, Alistair, again, in the light of all of this, in your view, and obviously your experience in your field, what is the probability that Paqueta will sue the FA?
I can't put a number on that. The ultimate decision will be for Lucas. If he turns around to me and says, I'm fed up with talking to you. I've had a horrendous 2 years. I don't like the law or legal process, and I'm not interested. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go ahead because of how frustrated he is.
Alistair Campbell, thank you very much indeed. Paqueta, of course, as you'll remember, in July was cleared of charges of spot fixing after it was alleged that he deliberately got booked to allow others to bet on. Thursday morning, we'll talk boxing with Spencer Oliver when he arrives on the scene at 12 noon. But certainly for the first hour this morning, we make no apology for it. It's been a bit of a West Ham United themed hour. Lucas Paqueta cleared of charges of spot fixing. And now the question is, and you heard his legal representative with Simon and myself moments ago, Alistair Campbell, will Paqueta sue the FA? Couldn't give us an absolute certain answer one way or the other on that, Simon. What was your takeaway from it?
Well, my takeaway from it was a variety of things. You know, we only see one side of the observations. We're seeing the respondent and defendant's vantage point about what the FA did and didn't do and how they managed to achieve an outcome. It would appear that the FA left themselves open to a whole raft of challenges from whether they used an independent betting investigator. And I'm not quite sure what independent means. It means that ultimately that you aren't employed by the FA. If the FA bring you in to be a betting investigator, at some point you're going to be employed by them, either short term or long term. So they've won an argument there. My feeling and my nose, you know, without having buried it into this particular case and the documentation behind it is, and this is me superimposing myself into it, and maybe I'm an older man that has a different attitude and is very litigious. If somebody accused me of something so fundamentally flawed that was putting my life, my career, my well-being into jeopardy, and I was exonerated or clear, that I would go uphill and down dale to make sure the people that brought these allegations were consequence for it. Now, I use the word spurious. The lawyer didn't like to use that word because he knows a case was brought that had some merit attached to it.
Yeah.
My concern is that the remedy for reputational damage, for loss of opportunity, is very easy to prove. It's not difficult. You besmirch this man's reputation and you appear to have had no case to answer on the basis of the evidence you put forward. I would suggest it's more convoluted than that. The fact they don't potentially want to run a case and don't potentially are on the bold and the front foot. When I went after a football person, I went straight out in the media when they did something. I said, I'm going to sue them. And my legal team went straight out and sue them. And believe me, legal guys will want a case if it's a strong case to win because it knows a whole bunch of fees. And Paqueta isn't Rumpole or the Bailey. He won't be standing up on his feet and conducting a cross-examination. He'll be given evidence and off he'll go back to his football career.
Paqueta himself might have had enough, and you can understand that.
Well, I think to be a professional footballer, to be of the quality of elite thinking that it takes to be a person of that sort of level of player that he is, requires a certain fortitude. If I think you are accused of something so fundamentally wrong and so damaging to your career, most of us would summon up the gumption to fight it. The only thing we couldn't summon up is perhaps the financial resources. I don't think that's a problem.
No, that's not a problem to him. And in the meantime, before the game against Palace on September the 20th and before the game against Brentford on October the 20th, a sizable number of West Ham United fans will protest against the board.
That's bold of them, picking two games that maybe they didn't want to go to in the first place. Let's see them protest when they're playing Arsenal or when they're playing Liverpool, or games that they want to go to. We don't want to go to Brentford anyway, it's not a great game. We don't want to go to Palace, it's not a great game.
So those fans have submitted a letter of no confidence in the West Ham United board. Again, is it worth the paper it's written on? Is this going to achieve anything?
Well, I mean, look, in the optics of the world that we operate in, yes, of course it makes noise. In the real world, I mean, David Sullivan will file it under miscellaneous next to the Andrex.
I mean, at the end of the day, he must be hoping somewhere down the line. Like, he got a bit of respite after they won the European trophy against Fiorentina.
You know him.
He must be hoping.
You know him.
God, am I going to get a breather from all of this?
You know David. Yeah. He's got the hide of a rhino. I mean, I remember him phoning me up talking about the fact that I'd said this story about him and explained it to one of his children. So he's got the hide of a rhino. Every year he used to invite me for lunch in Marbella. Every year I didn't want to go. But David doesn't care what other people think. One thing about David Sullivan is very single-minded. He's a very clever businessman. Whether you like the industries that he was in the open leg porn magazines, that's up for people to like or not. The fact is, he's a very successful, clear-minded, focused thinker, and he doesn't care what other people really think. He won't like it, but he don't really care.
All right, last time out, if memory serves me right, West Ham won 3-0 away.
Indeed.
And they come back to a match against Tottenham Hotspur when this international scene is all over. We're right in the middle of it. Scotland are in Denmark. Looking forward to that, Simon. Aren't you? We are coming up to 11 o'clock at half past the hour.
Is Sir Rod Stewart, CBE, going to that?
Probably. He goes to the Scotland games.
Indeed.
Unlike you, who never pitches up at an England game.
He announces himself, I'm here, Sir Rod Stewart, CBE.
Yeah, but
I want my seat.
Hang on, do you ever go to England games? You make enough noise about them.
Yeah, of course I have done.
I had to take you drag you, kicking and screaming.
I went to the England
in Qatar.
No, you didn't. I went to the England games. I wasn't interested in hawking my mutton around every single other country, like you and the producer.
Oh, I see. Okay, no problem. We just do our jobs. That's all. I remember that Welsh fellow having a go at you before England, Wales, and Qatar.
I don't blame him. I wiped their national shirt on my shoes.
Yeah, that was funny though. Boy, did we see a change in you.
Yeah, oh yeah, you did.
The fellow was about 6'8". I loved it, but I was there to help my colleague. It's 11 o'clock.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 1 minute past 11, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. The man charged with ramming his car into Liverpool fans at the club's Premier League victory parade in May has pleaded not guilty to 31 offences related to the crash. talkSPORT's Alex Dibble has more.
Paul Doyle, who's 53, has denied dangerous driving, a fray, 18 charges of attempted GBH, 9 counts of GBH with intent, and 2 more serious charges of wounding with intent. The charges relate to 29 victims, aged between 6 months and 77 years, although Merseyside police say in total 134 people were injured.
Now, UEFA confirmed Chelsea successfully balanced their transfer spending this summer, meaning the new signings can play in the Champions League this season. Chelsea were fined over £26 million in July for breaking financial rules. They could only register new signings for the Champions League by selling players from their winning Conference League squad. Now, with West Ham fans planning to boycott the club's next 2 home games over a lack of investment, some supporters tell us they want a change of ownership. Simon Jordan says that's easier said than done.
It's one thing telling people what you don't like. It's much more difficult to tell people what you do like and how you're going to achieve it. What does a better scouting network look like, and how is it achieved?
And on WSL deadline day, Man United's Grace Clinton is set to move to rivals Man City, with City's Jess Park expected to go the other way. talkSPORT's Uma Gurav told us why this is an unusual exchange.
Not only would Clinton be abandoning European football here, but these are 2 very similar players apparently swapping sides, both promising future England stars, both attacking midfielders. They must feel they'll get more playing time by moving.
talkSPORT has a WSL kick-off special tonight from 7 p.m. to dissect all the deadline day deals.
talkSPORT News.
It's understood Angela Rayner took legal advice from 3 separate people who all said her stamp duty payment was correct, and investigators in Lisbon are investigating what caused a tram to derail, leaving 17 people dead. There's more from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather. With QuickFit, get a free vehicle safety check at all of our 600 centres nationwide to keep you safe on the road. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Outbreaks of rain, some heavy and thundery, gradually clearing northeastwards from England and Wales. Otherwise, sunshine and showers, breezy in the south.
Good morning, everybody. 4 minutes past 11 o'clock. An hour from now, Spencer Oliver will join Simon and myself in studio, and we, as always, on a Thursday lunchtime, will talk boxing. All the talk is that next month, Fabio Wardley will be in the ring against Joseph Parker. We'll get to that and a whole lot more. And before that, in about half an hour's time, Simon mentioned to him a short time ago what a career he had. We will be talking to none other than Mark van Bommel, former PSV, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Milan and Netherlands midfielder. And he's now dipping his toe in the world of management. It was reported that he was in the hunt for the Rangers job recently. Russell Martin got that, and we know where that's gone thus far. What might Van Bommel have done? Anyway, that and a whole lot more, because this fella has got a CV like no other, and he'll be joining us live at 11:30. All that to come. In the meantime, it's time for this.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle baking bread? Improve your take-home dough with business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big 3 networks. For verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Time to round up one of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business. And Simon, today we're going to be talking about some of the comments made by UEFA President Alexander Ceferin. We're speaking about this individual now and again. I haven't met him. I've never shaken his right mitt. Have you?
No, I have not.
No, we have not. Anyway, we'll press on. We'll talk about him. And basically, the topic, multi-club ownership. And we all know about that, don't we, Palace fans? Crystal Palace, of course, demoted from the Europa League to the Europa Conference League, and this was at the heart of it. Ceferin has said that he sympathises with Crystal Palace fans after the club was demoted to the Europa Conference League due to multi-club ownership rules. But he said the credibility of European competition has and must be protected. Now, he goes into this in an interview with an organisation called Politico. But if you remember, thanks to Simon negotiating that the man in the middle of this furore involving Crystal Palace, John Textor, Simon managed to persuade Textor to come to us via Eurostar from Paris to this studio. And of course, at that time, he was in the thick of this multi-club ownership issue, and he spoke about it and how he'd found himself in there.
I'll admit to not even thinking about the issue. Of course, I have to. But I also read the rule. So please read the rule yourself. Like, everybody's talking about it like it's so obvious. The rule's very clear. If you have decisive influence, you may need to consider this. I don't. I didn't. If I had decisive influence, I wouldn't have been trying to sell the club starting in June of 2024. And if UEFA wants to look what they're doing, if you have a multi-club problem, they say, well, sell off your interest or get out of governance. Well, I did. I hired an investment bank. I was already out.
In spite of what Texter was saying, Palace nonetheless are playing Europa Conference League football, and it's really because of the issue that he was involved in. Ceferin says it's not UEFA's fault that happened. They will still play in Europe, and that's a good thing. He says, I wasn't included in the decision-making process, takes himself out of that. But he said, I just knew the result. But of course, I feel sorry. It's not the fault of the fans, and it's not the fault of UEFA, and it's not the fault of the players and the coaches. Here's the thing, though, Simon. I mean, Sefrin says that UEFA rules mean it's quite simple. You can't have two clubs owned by the same individual in the same European competition. Now, do you get it now, Mr. John Texter? And I'm sure that he does. Sefrin's arguments, do they still stack up after everything that we came through with Texter?
Well, it comes down to what you consider ownership to look like and what you consider decisive influence to be, because that was the argument that John Texter was advancing. Palace advanced different arguments that they weren't part of a multi-club ownership model, albeit their majority shareholder owned other clubs. Ostensibly, when he entered into his agreement with Crystal Palace, he owned other clubs on other continents, so it wouldn't have come into conflict, because ultimately owning clubs in Brazil wouldn't have conflicted owning a club in Europe, because they don't play in the same competitions besides the FIFA.
Yeah, but he still had Lyon and Palace.
Not at that time, he didn't. When he bought his shares in Crystal Palace, he didn't have his shareholding in Lyon. He had it post his acquisition of his shares in Crystal Palace.
He did when the deadline was meant to be
we're talking about the construct of the situation surrounding Crystal Palace, taking in him as a shareholder and then ultimately allowing him to buy other shares, and then ultimately looking at the multi-club ownership, and then looking at decisive influence. Palace's whole position was, and it's really quite sustainable for them to have made this position, was that he didn't have decisive influence. The decisive influence lay with the chairman, Steve Parish. There's no doubt about it. And the protocol that UEFA wished to determine, which is the lack of integrity around the sport and lack of credibility, needs to grow up. And so does the idea around associated party transactions that Manchester City drove a bus through the Premier League rules and said, well, hang on a second, what is associated party transactions? Because we can look at the whole round the world and say, how many people, businesses have you got? You open up a global, a world of global investment, you're going to have people that are interacting with one another because they've got shared business interests.
Right, so you're not having it when Sefrin says to allow two clubs to be owned by the same owner and play in the same competition is a no-go for us because of the credibility of the competition.
Well, my answer to that would be, how do you protect the credibility? You either refuse to allow people to buy shareholding in more than one club. Go ahead with that, see how you get on with that. Because they can't do it, otherwise they would have stopped it by now, suggesting that they can't, they prohibit it. If you own a football club, because you've got to get different federations to cooperate with different people at different times, you've also got the idea that most of the people that are able to buy multi-clubs have got more money than the people that they are going to be contesting the argument against in the first place. The reasons why we have multi-club ownership, the reasons why the City Group have clubs all over the world now is because they're able to push back against the restrictive covenants of the football governance, which is not fit for purpose a lot of the time. So the simple answer would be, most people would say, well, if you don't want something, why don't you just outlaw it full stop, and then there's no question, there's no debate, there's no controversy. Then ask yourself why they haven't.
And why haven't they?
Because
it's too late now, isn't it?
Because they can't.
Sefrin can't be seen to put a line through multi-club ownership now. We've moved on from that. We don't believe that any longer.
If you allow something in the first place, if you didn't allow it in the first place, then you wouldn't have the question to be asked or answered.
No, I get that.
Right? And the reasons why they have allowed it is because you've seen various arguments run by the RB group that drove a coach and horses through the idea of multi-club ownership when they separated themselves from Salzburg and Leipzig and ran arguments about different reasons for the different ownership models not being all under one ownership banner, and got away with that. And then you look at the other ownership models that are in place and say, well, what is it? If you have now accepted global investment in sport, and you've accepted that sport has a different set of parameters than lots of other different businesses because of the collective bargaining and responsibility that clubs have with competitivity, what is the fixture to having multi-club ownership? Because if you have a business, clearly you want to have as many subsidiaries that can create an opportunity to make your business better. Clearly, the multi-club ownership has some merits attached to it. So how does football grow up and say, right, I protect myself against the questions of integrity? I know what I'll do. I'll allow people to suggest they're not owner of the football club by putting their shares in a blind trust for a year. And then they can reverse out of it when it suits them. I'll allow, with due respect to the conversation, Nottingham Forest's owner to do the hokey-cokey about whether he's the owner or not. I'm in, I'm out, as he was doing when he ultimately filed, oh, actually, I'm not going to be in the Europa League, I'll come back in as owner again. Who did they think was going to actually run Nottingham Forest if Marinakis wasn't involved in terms of his blind trust? Someone else has got Marinakis' money, have they? It's silly. It's not grown up, it's not proper thinking, but that is what football has become. Because we've now got, and like Arsene Wenger said to me, and I disagreed with it at the time when I saw him over in Zurich, which was what's changed in football is not the fans, is not the players, which I disagree with, is the owners. To some extent, he's right, because the ownership models have changed the way that the governance of football is having to operate. Because the governance in football just made rules up as it went along. See you over there, I'm going to fine you a week's wages. If you did that in any other walk of life, you can't. If you turn up late for here, you can't get fined a week's wages. In football, you can. And that, to me, would probably breach most employment contracts in any other walk of life.
See, I think in you, I see a John Texter. Am I right? Because if you had to do it all again and you made all the money you made and you own a top football club, you're the sort of guy that would want to own another.
Well, I did.
And maybe another.
I did.
And maybe another.
I did. I wanted to own. I tried to get involved with potentially owning Malaga because there was an opportunity there when I was in Spain. I tried and looked at very seriously the Auckland Kings. I looked at Northern Spirit, which was an Australian club based in Sydney. Now, they wouldn't have been conflicting.
Right.
I opened a team in America, albeit under the badge of Crystal Palace, but notwithstanding, it was a team in America that I wanted to shove my younger players out there to play in the MLS.
But if you couldn't have owned more than one, Simon, would you have got involved in football in the first place?
Well, the question that you have to ask yourself of Crystal Palace's conundrum is why they didn't protect themselves earlier against the challenges that were put in place.
Exactly.
And the answer to that is they were remiss. And you can dress it up how you want. And I think Steve Parish should be given loads and loads of praise. And coming from me, that's difficult for me to say, but it is true. Most of the things that he's done have benefited Crystal Palace. Of course, they've benefited himself, but they've benefited Crystal Palace. In this instance, there is no doubt, whether people think I'm having a go at him or not, that they got it wrong. They should, if they'd have gone to council's opinion and asked when Texter decided to buy into Lyon, am I in any jeopardy here for anything that comes down the line if we are somehow successful in the Premier League? And council would have given him an answer, and they would have positioned themselves in such a way that they would have been able to negate the problem or accept it. But to go into the various hearings in UEFA and rely on decisive influence being the only game in town, because it's clear. The other thing that is also needs to be clear and understood is economic benefits is not the same as decisive influence. Often in life it is, because ultimately the person in the room with the money is the reasons why things get done. But in this instance, the economic benefits of John Texter owning 43% of Crystal Palace did not manifest itself in the decisive influence that possibly Palace were able to exhibit through Steve Parish's mandate via his shareholders agreement, which is I run the football club, I make the decisions, and ultimately that's the end of the conversation.
Before we leave this, is he going to buy Sheffield Wednesday?
Don't know. I don't know. I spoke to him very briefly the other day, and he's on his way to England, I think, but I don't know.
All right. Maybe when he gets you, we'll ask him. That was a roundup of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Business Briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle baking bread? Improve your take-home dough with business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big three networks. For verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
As well as listening to the show, of course, as I've been emphasising, we are virtually inescapable because you can watch us wherever you look. We are live on Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android, and Google TV, even Prime Video, wherever you watch, we are there. And this viewer simply loves what Mr. Jordan is wearing this morning. Simon, good morning. This is the best you've ever dressed. You're immaculate every morning, but today the colours blend really well and it makes your blonde hair pop.
Oh, wow.
I wish I could see the footwear that you are wearing this morning. I don't know, do you want to...
Who sent that? Mr. Quentin Crisp.
Do you want to hike your shoe onto the desk?
No, I bloody don't.
I can tell you, he's wearing a very fashionable pair of slip-ons, unlike myself. But I'm sure you want to thank that viewer.
Very kind.
Because not for the first time. Immaculate. Time for this.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
Yeah, we're joined by I nearly said Mel Gibson. Matt Gibson. That'd be a story, wouldn't it? Mel, good morning. When did you start working for BetMGM? Matt Gibson from BetMGM to look at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. Mr. Gibson, good morning. How was that for an introduction?
What an introduction, gents. I'm not going for best turned out like Mr. Jordan today, just in my in my casuals in the office there this morning. But,
I'll tell you about best turned up. I put that bloody lead shirt on my son the other day. He was deeply unimpressed.
Well, you know, he's not got a lot to cheer about at the moment. Hopefully we can hopefully he won't get bullied too much at school if we manage to get a win.
Anyway, Mel, well done with Braveheart. What a movie. Now listen, Matt, World Cup qualifiers, Wales and Northern Ireland in action. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Sean Martin was due to be on today, but when discussing Kazakhstan football, he phoned in a little bit sick after what happened to Celtic last week.
Yeah.
But listen, we fully expect the home nations to have a good night this evening. Wales go to Kazakhstan, 3 p.m. kickoff, 13-25 favourites to win the game. It's a tricky one for Wales, right? Because Belgium are in that group. They've played 2 games less than everyone. You expect them to really quicken and probably take that top automatic spot. North Macedonia are a point in front of them, so Wales can't really afford any slip-ups. We certainly don't think they will this evening. We've got them as winning pretty handsomely. They won the reverse fixture 3-1 in Cardiff, and then Northern Ireland again in a tricky group with Germany and Slovakia, and Luxembourg tonight seems straightforward. But the last time they played in Luxembourg. In the Nations League, they went 2-0 up. They got pegged back to 2 apiece. That score tonight, 2-2, is 13-1 in that fixture. But listen, I think the home nations double is a pretty decent bet, just over 2-1 at 23-10.
Okay, I hope the Welsh do it. I hope Northern Ireland do it. You have any?
I don't care.
Thank you. England against South Africa, the second ODI. It's at Lord's, and of course, after yesterday's 7-wicket drubbing, where do we think in this one?
Well, they were, despite me talking them up on Tuesday, I think it was, they were very, very disappointing. They lost 7 wickets for just 29 runs. The last 7 fell for 29 runs and 131 all out in just 24 overs. So, despite the sun shining in Yorkshire, the spectators weren't treated to as good a day's cricket as I think they probably wanted to. England, despite that, 4-6 favourites. South Africa 6-5 outsiders. I tipped Joe Root and Harry Brook, seeing as they were back at Headingley in a track that they're very used to. I tipped them to both score 50 plus at 23-4, and I think they got 26 runs combined. So take this tip with a pinch of salt, everybody. But I'm hoping that class is permanent and form is just temporary. I think England will bounce back at Lord's, and I think Joe will be right amongst the runs. So England to win, and Root top batsman in the game is 5-1.
Good man, Matt. No chance. Now, the NFL is back and talkSPORT is delivering its biggest year yet with exclusive coverage, Simon, of over 90 games this season. It all gets underway tonight on talkSPORT. The reigning Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles face their bitter rivals Dallas Cowboys. Mr. Gibson, what do you think?
Yeah, Eagles Cowboys this evening. Eagles are big favourites, 1-5 to beat Dallas. 15-4 for the Cowboys to provide an upset. Eagles are joint favourites, top of the tree to retain the Super Bowl, along with Baltimore Ravens, who themselves have a tricky opening fixture away to the Buffalo Bills, who are third favourites in at 7-1. Among all I think there's 18 games or something like that over the weekend until about sort of Monday night into Tuesday. There's a game that really sort of takes the eye. Chiefs versus Chargers is in Sao Paulo tomorrow night.
Yeah,
and just looking at the NFL expansion, I think 2007 was the first NFL London game, Giants versus Dolphins. This season, they've got a game in Sao Paulo, there's a game in Dublin, there's 3 in London, there's 1 in Berlin, there's 1 in Spain. We're here in Melbourne, the MCG is in the talks for a game at the start of next season. I know that Serie A and La Liga are trying to conquer America with fixtures over there, but the NFL is paving the way for these sort of competitive showcase games in other countries. And do you guys think that other sports, football, cricket, do you think they'll follow suit and do similar to what the NFL's doing?
Yes and no. I here goes another name drop. I spent some time with the EVP of the NFL, which was a guy called Mark Waller, who talked about the overseas development of the NFL and how easy it was to achieve because all the owners in a room were united by, is it a good idea? Does it make us more money? Off we go. Because there isn't relegation, there isn't challenges, there isn't jeopardy, and they don't have the same pushbacks that perhaps in the boardrooms and attitudes of European football clubs to take football into the equation because relegation is part of the equation. So the answer to your question is, yes, people will want to ape it and want to replicate it, but the dynamics of how sport is held together and the personalities and the different agendas makes it more difficult.
Yeah. Did you like Mark Waller?
I thought he was brilliant. Englishman in New York.
He didn't like you?
He did, very much.
Eagles,
so
Cowboys.
So he's in my documentary.
Your documentary, right. Eagles, Cowboys. Who wins it?
Listen, I think Eagles are too strong, isn't it? I think the record of a Super Bowl winner in the opening game the following season is pretty strong. We've got 1 to 5 favourites. I think that most probably be too much for Dallas Cowboys. But strange things have happened, and I've been wrong a number of times. So maybe there is a chance for the upset.
There we go. Matt Gibson. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Mad Matt.
Visit BetMGM.
Mad Matt. Bit of a lethal weapon, isn't he?
I love that. Visit betmgm.co.uk, download the app. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
I do really mean this, so Simon and I are looking forward to the next half hour because we are going to be treated to the company of one of the greats in the game, and this fella has played at the highest level. Former PSV, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Milan and Netherlands midfielder. Boy, could he play over 700 appearances across 2 decades. We are delighted to be welcoming Mark van Bommel to the show. Stand by for that. It's 11:30.
League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Some are pretty straightforward. Arsenal are the Gunners because they were founded by a group of munitions workers, and Bournemouth are the Cherries because their old stadium was built right next to a cherry orchard. Then there's Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were 2 local toffee shops. Ipswich Town nicked their nickname off their opponents in the late 90s, Birmingham. The term Tractor Boys was chanted as a way to tease the team about their farming background, but they started using it themselves as a way to cheer on the team in victory instead. Take that, Birmingham. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Crystal Palace's nickname came from an extreme makeover. They were having a nightmare run in the 70s, and when they were relegated, their manager, Malcolm Allison, wasn't having it. I know what'll make us better, he thought, a new nickname. The Strong and Deadly Eagle sounded like a pretty good bet. And there's more to that story. Brighton used Palace's nickname to inspire their own. Ooh, bird, they thought. Let's just pick a different one for us. And so, in a heated match between the two teams back in 1976, when Palace fans began chanting "Eagles, Eagles," Brighton fans had the perfect reply: "Seagulls, Seagulls." So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Biggest competition today is now live. We're giving you the chance to win Oasis tickets plus a whopping 25 grand. 2 lucky winners, not 1 but 2, will win a pair of Oasis tickets when Oasis return to Wembley on the 27th of September. That's not all. Alongside the tickets, you have the chance to win £25,000. Listen up, here's how you can do it.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. Or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 338. All entries must be received by the 19th of September at 9 a.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
I'm sure I can speak for Simon on this. We're always thrilled that the big names in football and any sport want to join us on this show. And this morning is an absolute example of this. This fellow made 700 appearances across 2 decades at leading European clubs such as PSV Eindhoven, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Milan. He won league titles wherever he went. 4 Eredivisie championships, 1 La Liga, 2 Bundesliga, 1 Serie A, 1 Champions League, 79 caps with the Netherlands. He was a runner-up in the 2010 World Cup final. I bet you're still annoyed that they didn't go the whole way in that one. And now he's moved into management. I'm delighted to say, Simon, Mark van Bommel joins us live on the show this morning. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Nice to be on the show.
Great to have you. For those watching the show this morning, Mark's got one of his, I presume it's one of your Dutch shirts framed up on the wall behind you.
Yeah, it's my first one against Cyprus away, number 18. I came in late, I think 10 minutes before the end. We won the game 0-4, and it's always nice, you know, and if you frame it in, then it's always nice to watch if you come in your office.
Mark, what a career you had. PSV, Bayern, Barcelona, Milan. And as I say, 79 caps for the Netherlands. And this was a top Netherlands team. When you hear that kind of roll call, how do you reflect on it? With a smile, with pride, with what?
No, it's definitely with a smile. Although the World Cup is also a disappointment, of course, because you lost the final, but the road to Johannesburg was really nice. We had a terrific, really good squad, and also the clubs where I played, they were all world class. If you see for example, I saw some clips from the season 2005-2006. If you see Chelsea or AC Milan or whatever, yeah, they were all world class teams, and we won the Champions League in that year. So if I'm watching some clips of my career, of course I'm really happy that I played with such big teams and big names.
Not everybody likes you. We do. But former Inter midfielder Dejan Stankovic, he was once asked, who's the opponent you hate most? Mark van Bommel. He's that kind of man. He hits, provokes, he fights dirty. I couldn't stand him. You must be proud of that, are you not, Mark?
No, I'm going to tell you, he was my neighbor in Milan. And serious. And our kids, they love each other. They still have contact. One son is playing at Club Brugge. The other one is a goalkeeper in Italy. And my youngest son is playing at PSV. They're still in contact with Insta. So I hated Dejan as well, because he was the same.
You were laughing at that, Simon, but
It's a nice way to frame it for the poor bugger. He's sitting there wanting to talk about all the things that we were doing and the things that he's done, and we're telling him how much he's disliked by somebody.
Yeah, I know. But you know that 2010 World Cup final, Mark? It was often said, this was the Dutch didn't want to play an open brand of football. It was more anti-football. This was a wonderful Spain team that was wanting to express itself, so the right nation won. But you will still not see it that way.
No, the road to Johannesburg was really good. We played really well. We played some good football, but in the final, we weren't good, really. We were several occasions, we were too late, and we had some tackles. Also mine, it was over the top, and Nigel de Jong as well. That was not good. Spain was better, but if Robin scores the big chance 50 minutes before the end of the game, then I think we would become world champion. But it's really close, and but Spain at the end, they had a great squad, and we were a little bit, how can I say it, not nervous, but we were a little bit over the top.
I've never forgiven you, Dutch, for that, losing that final, because I was living in Spain at the time amongst the Spaniards, and it was absolute hell having to listen to them on a daily basis.
No, you know who was the referee in the final, no?
Yeah.
Oh, Howard Webb.
Howard Webb.
Yeah, Howard. And one month before, he was also the referee in the Champions League final, Inter Milan against Bayern Munich. So we lost the game as well. So we lost, Arjen Robben and I lost 2 finals in 1 month with the same referee. So you know already who we are blaming the 2 losses, no?
Yeah. Howard's a fan of the show. Do you have a message for him, Mark?
No, we didn't make it really easy for him. It's really nice guy. I spoke to him afterwards again a couple of years ago, and it was also for him not easy, because everybody wants to win a World Cup final. So everybody was really, it was not good. It was not honest against the referee, because if we were getting a foul, the Spanish guys were angry, and the other way around. So it was not an easy game for him.
Mark, with all your experience, I'm not surprised that you're thinking of management. In fact, you've already done a bit. You won the league with Royal Antwerp back in 2023. I think you've been a year out. What was the situation with Rangers? Can I ask you that? Were you in the mix for that job, and Russell Martin ended up getting it?
This season, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some talks, but not directly to the board of Glasgow, of the Rangers.
Is that a position you would have liked? I mean, when you think your fellow countryman Dick Advocaat had a hugely successful time there.
No, it's kind of the Dutch team, you know, with a lot of Dutch players, and also, of course, Advocaat. It's I played once with PSV. It's an atmosphere. It's unbelievable, and I loved it at Antwerp as well, similar to Rangers. And of course, the Scottish League, for me, it's a good league, and it's a really challenge to become champion and then play in Europe. I think that's the big goal for the teams in Scotland.
Advocate loved his time there, Simon.
Oh,
you
yeah,
remember
big
that.
club. I was going to ask you, Mark, about your managerial career. I mean, obviously, you're an elite footballer, and having spoken to lots of different managers in my time as an owner once upon a time, and seeing top players that go into being managers, you've had 3 goes at management: PSV, Wolfsburg for a very short period of time, Royal Antwerp. When you look at your management career, A, how do you think it's going? And B, what kind of manager are you? Because you come from a background of being a manager, a person that's played 700 games. We're talking about players in this day and age that are more concerned about player welfare and all these different challenges. What kind of manager are you?
I think I want to have the ball for sure. And I think it's a big advantage that I play on that level for several clubs, because then you recognize a lot of things in the players. When I'm talking in the for example in the dressing room or on the training pitch, then you recognize the players. They are looking to each other, and if you say the right things and you recognize also why they are doing things, and you tell that directly to the players, then they recognize it, and that's nice. And also it's not good when you talk only about your own career. I had the experience here and there. No, you need to talk on a certain way, but also on a player level. And nowadays, the relationship with your players getting more and more important. How you deal with the guys. Sometimes I had conversations with the players. I thought I'm going to talk maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then I was sitting there 2-3 hours talking about Netflix and PlayStation and whatever. And if you see my career at Eindhoven, we had in my first season 83 points. So in the last 30 years in Holland, if you had 83 points, you would have been champion. So we played a really good season, but only Ajax was at that season. They lost against Spurs in the semi-final of the Champions League. They had an outstanding squad, so it was a pity. After that, in the second season, they sacked me at PSV, although it was really strange because I know the club already for 20 years. I was a player and also as a manager, so it was a pity, and that was not nice. Then I went to Wolfsburg. We had the best season start ever, 4 wins, and then we didn't win for 5 games, and they sacked me as well.
How different is it,
so
Mark?
That was not nice.
How different is it, Mark, from you? You have a mentality of a player once upon a time and now a mentality of a manager. What is the difference if you can cast your mind back to what you thought was a player against what you now encounter the player mentality to be? What's the difference, do you think?
No, it's different because nowadays the player also, not every player, but a lot of players thinking about themselves. Maybe also a little bit with Instagram, how they show up in internet. But I think the relationship between player and coach, player and manager, I think that's getting more and more important, because when I was a player, I was afraid for the coach, I didn't allow to talk to him, or I didn't go to the coach. Nowadays, the relationship's more open. It's more or less a friend. And if you have the good relationship with your players, you can help them. You can also be a little bit angry, but you all do everything to get a good team, that everybody feels well. And if everybody feels well, especially the individual player, then it's a double win. And if you have an idea as a coach with good players, with a good relationship, then it works double.
What's the toughest bit about management, Mark? Is it managing down to the players or managing up to the owner?
It's not only to the owner. I think it's good then when you have an open relationship with the owner, you discuss a lot of things, but also with the kit man, for example, the physiotherapist or whatever. And that's getting more important, that everybody is, I don't know if I'm saying it right in English, everybody watching in the same way. So the relationship in total, how you work on the training ground, that's getting more and more important. And that's also nice, because your relationship's getting more open. You're going to talk about also other things than only football. But football is of course, the main reason.
So, Mark, we're going to take a brief break, then we'll come back to you. Before we do that, I take it you want to get back into management. And might that be here in England?
Yeah, that would be nice. I had some offers to play in the early 2000s, but I didn't go. Sometimes it was another club or whatever. But of course, if you see the Premier League, it's amazing, and also Championship, the crowds, the players. It's a lovely atmosphere.
You still want to do it, even though Ten Hag lasted 2 games with Bayer Leverkusen the other day.
Yeah, I know. That's also part of the job. They sack you at every moment of the season. It's possible, no?
I think it is. Mark, we're loving this. Stay with us. We're back with you just after this break. White and Simon Jordan live on talkSPORT. We're live on your TV. I'll go into the list of where you can watch us very soon. But we are in the company of a man who did so much as a player and is now making his mark in management. Mark van Bommel, former PSV, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Milan, Netherlands midfielder. Mark is live with us on the show. Mark, as happens on this show, so many people get in touch, hundreds of messages. It seems every minute of every hour. There's one from David. Really enjoying the chat with Mark van Bommel. He's so composed. He's so humble, even after what he achieved in the game as a player. You guys are so humble. You're on quite a level. You're always on a very kind of even keel level. And then there's Louis van Gaal. What was he all about?
He was the one who let me make my debut in Holland.
Yeah.
2000, and I worked with him at Bayern Munich. He has a certain way of communicating. He has one idea. He's trying to convince you in a certain way, and his idea is really good. How he wants to play, but it's all kind of things. So if you are dealing as a manager, like I said, also the personal relationship is really, really important. And Louis is maybe a little bit more not the dictator, but I think you know what I'm trying to tell you.
Sure, yeah.
He's a little bit on top of the group.
Yeah.
You talked, Mark, about the potential ambition to manage in the English Premier League or the English Championship. When you look at the roll call of Dutch managers over the recent years, over the last 20-odd years, from Arne Slot, there's obviously an unprecedented success right now, to Gus Hiddink, to Louis van Gaal, we just mentioned, to Erik ten Hag, to Ruud Gullit, to Ronald Koeman, to Martin Jol, to Dick Advocaat, to Frank de Boer at Palace, and René Meulenstein, and, of course, Ruud van Nistelrooy. It's a mixed bag of successes. Do you think the philosophy of Dutch thinking in the manner of the way that you guys play the game sits well with the Premier League or English football as it stands now?
Yeah, I think so. Look at the way Arne Slot is trying to play. We are Dutch people, you know. We are a small country. We need to adapt as soon as possible to the culture of the club. And we want to attack. And if you have good players and your idea, I think that's important. You need to convince the player with your football idea. And if they agree, they understand, you can achieve a lot. And of course, some Dutch coaches are a success and the other ones that didn't do really well. But in general, the Dutch coaches, they are humble, of course. We are a small country and we love to work abroad because in the early days, maybe it was not that nice. We went with a boat to all over the world. So we are a traveling country. And the English Premier League, everybody's watching the English Premier League from the early days, from Glenn Hoddle to the 84, the FA Cup. I don't know for sure. I cannot remember exactly. But then you see, I was born in 77 and everybody is watching the Premier League. Everybody wants to work there. But if you see the Dutch managers, you need to convince the players, and that's the most difficult part. And some managers do it really well. It's also depending on which club you are, and you need to be a little bit lucky if you win your first couple of games, because then how you convince the player goes really quick, and then it works double and double, and you see Arne Slot.
And Mark, on that, Arne Slot, could you have imagined the success he would have so quickly? That he wins a Premier League in his first attempt?
Yeah, you know, he was assistant of AZ, and I was coaching the Dutch PSV youth under 19, and we had some context how you develop the team, some exercises, how you defend in the way you want to play in your total game. So divide the group in two, in the attacking part and the defending part. So we were thinking always how you can develop the team and how it works at AZ and Feyenoord and now at Liverpool. And that's what I'm trying to tell you before. If you can convince the players from your idea and you work every day with them and the players feel that you feel how they feel. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell.
Yeah.
then it works. And if they have that quality on the pitch, yeah, you can play every game with on a certain level that also the players who coming in, they understand exactly what they need to do, and that's the most important thing, that you put on player on the pitch, that they know what to do with the ball, but also when the opponent has the ball. And then in transition, yeah, that's they have also amazing players. But I love the way Arne worked, and it was difficult to think before the season they're going to win the Premier League, but during the season I had my feeling was that they would have a really big chance.
Mark, just at the beginning of the week, we had a strong feeling that Manchester United would be bringing Emiliano Martinez from Aston Villa to be their goalkeeper. They didn't. United went for a 23-year-old Seny Lamens, who, of course, was at Royal Antwerp. You know the boy, don't you? He's 23. I think you managed him. How's he going to cope with the bright lights at Old Trafford?
Yeah, it's not easy to come in a club like that, and also in a situation like now. He was a young boy. He came to Antwerp. He was free agent because at Club Brugge, Mignolet was playing. Then he came to Antwerp, and I was working with Jean Butet. He's playing now at Como in Italy. So in the first season, he didn't play much. Then when I was gone, then he played every game because Jean Butet went to Como, and this development in the last year is amazing. I knew he had the quality, but that fast, but that's why it's a good goalie. When you are a good player, you adapt as soon as possible to the level where you are playing. So that's also difficult for scouts, for chief scouts, that you see a player on a certain level, and do you think he can play in the Premier League? And that's the most difficult thing for a chief scout, but I think he has the capability to play on the level of Man United.
Mark, just want to finish with this, and I know you probably want to take more time to answer it, but we don't have a lot of time, but I'm still going to put it to you. You're recognised as a guy who had a top career, but you have an extremely good way about you. Your attitude was always good. And then your pal, Arne Slot, gets his man and signs Alexander Isak, £125 million. And he gets his move, Isak. But what did you make of the way that move came about when Isak, in the process, said, I don't want to play for Newcastle again. This is what we've heard. And even if I am reintegrated into the squad, I don't want that to happen. Only one thing I want is a move to Liverpool. What do you think of that in a player?
That's really difficult to talk about from the sideline, because you don't know what are the agreements between player and club. But if you see it from the sideline, it's kind of strange. I don't want to say strange, but if you sign a contract, you want to play for the club, and then you are developing really well. Then another clubs come, and you want to go there. But that's why that's really difficult to talk about, because what I told you, when you're from the sideline, you don't know exactly what's going on, and it's difficult. Everybody has his opinion. That's why everybody loves football. We are talking about it. Everybody's talking about it on the streets, on the office. And that's why everybody likes the football.
But you as a manager, stuff. Mark, you as a manager, I'm not going to let you get away with that easy. You as a manager, if you had a player that in principle just wanted to leave, the club really hadn't told him he could leave, they'd told him that they'd be prepared to listen to offers for him and do the deal if it worked for them. You'd be unhappy though, wouldn't you, if a player down tools and decided that he wasn't prepared to integrate with the squad or train or be part of it until such things have been resolved?
Now, if he doesn't want to play anymore, then he's trying to leave. He needs to deal with the club. Do you have the good transfer fee? And then as soon as possible, try to sell him. Of course, it's not possible that when a player is coming and I don't want to play anymore for the club, that's impossible. But sometimes there are some cases that you need to think, what are we going to do? Do we try to sell him? But do we have a great replacement? And that's maybe even more important. Can we get a replacement? Because if you sell one of your best players, then your team is getting weakened, not that good that it was.
Well, they've got a replacement in 6'6", Nick Voltemada. So we'll see how he does. Mark van Bommel, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure. Half an hour you gave us, and we're thrilled at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I liked it a lot. Guys, good luck with the show.
Terrific, Mark. Thank you so much. You liked it a lot. That was me he was talking about.
Indeed,
Not so
indeed.
much you, but me.
Well, he wasn't exposed enough to me to form any opinion, was he? You were dominating the interview.
Mark van Bommel, Dutch royalty, with us live on talkSPORT, 12 noon.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 12:03, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. The man charged with ramming his car into Liverpool fans at the club's Premier League victory parade in May has pleaded not guilty to 31 offences related to the crash. 53-year-old Paul Doyle's denied every charge he's facing, including causing grievous bodily harm against 29 people injured when a car hit crowds in the city centre. Kieran Tierney and Anthony Ralston have dropped out of the Scotland squad. Sassuolo left-back Josh Doig's been called up for Scotland's World Cup qualifiers. They're away to Denmark and Belarus. Now, West Ham's ownership have agreed to meet fans, planning a boycott of the next two home games. Simon Jordan says it's right for bosses to engage with fans head-on.
Obviously, currently at this moment in time, you're seeing a malaise in the team. And the question is, how much money do West Ham have? Why aren't they spending it? And are they within the confines of PSR? And Sullivan and his cronies, cohorts, are going to be able to answer those questions.
West Ham supporters are upset over a lack of investment in training facilities and scouting networks. England's one-day cricketers are looking to bounce back from a South African hammering at Lords today. Harry Brooks' team was accused of being underprepared at Headingley. Former England assistant coach Paul Farbre says the boys were shocking in Game 1.
The preparation now for international cricket is such that you're just chopping and changing constantly. And what everybody needs to do is work out what is the best cricket we need to play at the right times of the year. And also, you're shortchanging public.
There's loads more content on talkSPORT's cricket YouTube channel. And on WSL transfer deadline day, Arsenal confirmed the departure of Champions League winning midfielder Leah Valti after 7 seasons at the club. We're also expecting England midfielder Grace Clinton to move from Man United to Man City. All the latest at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
It's understood Angela Rayner took legal advice from 3 separate people who all said her stamp duty payment was correct, and investigators in Lisbon are investigating what caused a tram to derail, leaving 17 people dead. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Come rain or shine, we've got your car's inbuilt safety tech covered with expertly trained technicians across the country, so you can drive away happy every time.
Outbreaks of rain, some heavy and thundery, gradually clearing north-eastwards from England and Wales. Otherwise, sunshine and showers, breezy in the south.
That always brings a smile to my face. I mean, Spencer Oliver is joining us, and here he is. Spencer, good afternoon.
Jim, good afternoon. Simon, how are you?
In that announcement?
Omen.
Oh, the Omen.
Do you know what that stood for, don't you? Little devil in the ring, nice guy outside of the ring. You wouldn't know too much about that, but...
Spencer, I've got to say, he's in a bit of a mood today.
I heard he's in a good mood.
Oh, he's in a good mood.
Is that good for me?
He's loving it. He's enjoying it. His new best pal, Mark van Bommel. I mean, it's all going on.
So he now continues picking on his old best pal, Spencer Oliver. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
But you've got such a good nature that you take it in your stride. You don't care.
Water off a duck's back.
You insult him and as a hissy fit that goes on for days on end.
Absolutely.
If he falls out with me, Spencer, I'll phone him up later in the day. Hi there. Listen, about that. I'm talking to the dialing tone. Spencer, good to speak to you. Here's the thing. We're all a bit in an Usyk limbo at the moment, are we not? And yet,
what's that dance?
Exactly. The WBO this week has ordered Usyk to submit an updated medical prognosis with a re-examination. He's got an injury at the moment. He's out. But then a social media video emerged in recent days showing him dancing and playing football. I mean, he's entitled to do that, but we're all led to believe that he's out injured at the moment.
Look, mandatories are put in place for a reason. That's why we didn't have an undisputed world heavyweight champion for 25 years, going back to Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, before we had the big fight with Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, was the last undisputed champion. So mandatories are put there for a reason, and you have to obligate those mandatory positions. He hasn't done that because he said that obviously he's out with a shoulder injury, but the video that emerged, he was dancing like Simon at a party. He was doing all sorts of moves.
It was a bit of dad dancing.
It was.
But he wasn't carrying a bunch of Ukrainian children on his shoulders, was he? He's perfectly entitled to be... What do you want him to do? Want to see him, clad in cast and wheeled around in a wheelchair to prove the fact that he's not injured? If he's got an injury on his shoulder, he may well have an injury on his shoulder.
Yeah, but he was moving like he didn't have an injury on his shoulder.
You're a doctor now?
We're looking at it on TV at the moment.
It's really
vivid. Does that look like an injured man to you?
Listen, I've had injuries in my shoulders before, and I know you're not moving like that, that's for sure. And look, the point that I was making...
Are you questioning this man's integrity? No, Alexander Usyk, of all people.
The point I was making was that people will say, listen, give the guy a break. He only boxed 6 weeks ago. He deserves a break. Yeah. The mandatories are in position for a reason. That's the point, and that's why you have to let some of them go. Not arguing that, he didn't deserve to be undisputed champion, but if he can't obligate that position, give Joseph Parker his shot or... relinquish the title.
He does move
surely
well,
that's right, no?
But it's up to the WBO to say, no, you can't have an extension.
Exactly, that's the point, and the WBO are being weak again.
Yeah. And while that's all going on, maybe the focus of attention is going elsewhere because Joseph Parker up against Fabio Wardley, reportedly on the verge, Spencer, being finalised. The two will meet on October the 25th. It's been penciled in at the O2 here in London. Who's that a bigger gamble for?
It's a huge gamble for both, with obviously Fabio Wardley being the interim WBA world champion, #1, and Joseph Parker, the interim WBO champion. So they're both putting a lot on the line. I think it's more damaging for Joseph Parker if he loses at this stage, because Fabio Wardley is the underdog. He's going to go in there as the underdog. So it's a sort of win-win situation for him. He gets the world title shot if he comes through. But with Joseph Parker, although he's 32 years of age, he's had to work hard to get into the position that he's in. And obviously, if he loses, it's going to be a tough road back. So, look, both guys putting a lot on the line without a world title on the line. But I think it's more damaging for Parker if he loses.
Oh, absolutely.
Who wins it, Simon?
Listen, I mean, you would expect Joseph Parker because of the level of experience, but Fabio finds a way. This is a massive jump up in class. Justice Hooney, he came up short in that fight and was fortunate to get himself out of trouble with one big shot. But that was notwithstanding, it's an equaliser. It's a great fight. I think the only thing that Fabio's got to ward against, and he will do, I suspect, is the fact that he's got nothing to lose in this fight. If Fabio loses to Joseph Parker, everyone's going to turn around and say, no shame in that, unless he gets knocked out in the first round. There's no shame in that. We expected it. If he wins, he's shoehorned straight into a world title shot, isn't he?
Sure.
So it's a great bit of matchmaking and a great opportunity and a really good fight.
Yeah.
It's a really good fight.
I think they'll turn out in droves for that.
Listen, it's a great fight. I mean, we was there at Fabio Wardley's last fight, and terrible weather we had there, but the atmosphere there was insane, and I think we get that again here. This is a proper fight. You know, if it goes at the O2 Arena where we believe it may land, if it does land there, the atmosphere is going to be insane.
Yeah, we lost a good man. Former heavyweight boxer Joe Bugner died this week at the age of 75. And for those who don't know, he twice held the British and Commonwealth heavyweight titles and was a 3-time European heavyweight champion. But this was the thing, he faced them all. He faced Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier in back-to-back bouts in 1973 before facing Ali again for the world title in 1975. Didn't win it, of course. 83 fights in his career. And he shared the ring with other notable heavyweights such as Ernie Shavers, Henry Cooper and Frank Bruno. And this was typical of the time. This was back in 2014. This was Joe Bugner remembering Ali when he was talking to Fox Sports in 2014. And he spoke about the relationship he had with Muhammad Ali and the sledging that used to take place. But he goes into the description and the language used in that time when he knew Muhammad Ali.
I went to New York to have a workout with him because he was making a comeback after being stripped of all the titles by the American government. Yeah. So I was there, and cut a long story short, he walks into the restaurant where we were having lunch, and he just wanted to know where the hell was this white boy. And I stood up and I waved to him. I said, look, I'm here. And he said, so you're the white boy that wants to spar with me? I said, yes. Well, let me tell you something right now. You're the ugliest white thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Your mother must have cried when she had you. I thought, whoa, hang on. I said, hang on, put a lid on it, mate. So at the end of the day, you know what I did? I feel embarrassed. I said, you haven't met my sister. Now, that is ugly. And with that, he enjoyed it.
You just didn't know where that was going to end.
No, absolutely not.
Joe Bugner, quite a character. I can remember that. I can remember him fighting in 1973 and then in 1975.
A huge character.
And everybody thought, do you know what? He might just do it, but of course he didn't. But he was an immense character, Simon.
You can,
Out of the ring, is that just...
You can remember Bob Fitzsimmons fighting in the early part of this century. Yeah. I mean, if you look at him, one of the things that he was a very good fighter. There was a big criticism of him that he had more ability than he let himself show in the ring. And I think a lot of people never forgave him for beating Henry Cooper. And that was the judgment the British public had on him. I met him years ago because he was very good friends with my friend Nick Moran, the actor. And he was a real character.
Oh, you met him?
Yeah. He was a real character. His wife was a real powerhouse as well. And so one of those that, you know, had loads of talents, loads and loads of talent, Joe Bugner, and there was always this observation about he, at times when he had opportunities to really step into gear and land and put himself in the way of things, he didn't. But he was a good fighter. He was a real character. And when he came back in the 80s as Aussie Joe and created all that nonsense around him and the background noise and fought Frank Bruno, there was always a load of interest. He was a big personality.
He certainly was. He was in the top 10, you know, in the 70s, the top 10 heavyweights, and that was the golden era, if you like. And I met his son, actually. His son used to be he boxed on a couple of my undercards many years ago and then took over as the security. Met his son at the Daniel Dubois-Alexander Usyk fight. And he told me his dad was sort of unwell, and unfortunately, we now have lost him. But his son's a huge character, lovely character as well. And we sorely missed an iconic figure in boxing for sure.
It was sad news, Spencer. Joe Bugner, who died this week at the age of 75. Stay with us. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Spencer Over, live on talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing.
Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
Now then, this Saturday, rising Brit and Olympic silver medalist Pat McCormack faces seasoned Mexican Miguel Parra for the WBA Intercontinental Welterweight title showdown. You can watch it only on DAZN. Spencer is alongside Simon as we talk boxing this lunchtime. I think whenever I hear of a seasoned Mexican, Spencer, you know might be in for a hard night.
Absolutely. Listen, Parra is a tough guy, and he's proven. So it's a step up for McCormack, but he is an exceptional young talent, and home advantage is going to be key there. Great fight. Looking forward to it.
Spencer, when you fought, I think you stayed with the same trainer, Jack Lee. Am I right?
That's correct.
For your whole career.
Yep.
Then Jack Catterall has bucked that trend and has said this week, it is with a heavy heart I've decided to part ways with my coaches and, more importantly, my best friends Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis. He says, I now move on to a new chapter in my life and career. News will be dropping soon on my next move. What do you think? Is this so that Jack can be seen to unlock a bit more and take him from there to there?
Some fighters feel that at certain points of their career, Jack's been around a long time now, and some fighters get stale. They feel like they need a change, they need a new injection of life in them, and that change sometimes is the trainer. Look, I understand it from Jack's side that he feels that timing might be there. Is it the right move? Possibly not. I think that Nigel Travis and Jamie Moore are great trainers. They're probably, they're up there with the best of the lot. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I understand it from Jack's point of view. Look, he wants a fresh start. He needs to find something else. He needs to get motivated, and that may be his reason for getting motivated.
Do you feel, Simon, we're still to see the best of Jack Catterall?
No, I think we've seen the best of Jack Catterall. Whether he can continue to maintain that standard is a different thing. I mean, we saw the best of Jack Catterall in the fights against Josh Taylor. I think it's very difficult to get up to a level, and obviously against Regis Prograis and against Jorge Linares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We saw him come up slightly short against Arnold Barbosa Jr., and there's reasons behind that in his own mind. I mean, the interesting thing is, Spence, we were talking to two trainers on Monday, weren't we? Adam Booth and Paul Smith,
yes,
about the nature of the relationship, because I would compare changing a trainer to changing a football manager, and people would say, well, it's a different voice, it gives you a different dynamic, and people need a different voice.
Sure.
But there's a very different dynamic between a trainer than a football manager and a player, isn't there? Because in some respects, you guys are putting your lives in the hands of a trainer, and you've got a different dynamic.
Well, let me tell you, Simon, putting your life in your hands, it's a brave guy that goes in with this fella. I can tell you, Australia's IBF cruiserweight champion, Jai Opetaya. He literally is a wrecking ball. He's demolished everyone who's been put in front of him, 28-0. And now he's going to defend his title on home soil, down under, against the German challenger, brave chap that he is, Hussein Chinkara. I'm delighted to say, let's go down under to Australia, and I think we're going to speak to the IBF cruiserweight champion, Jai Opetaya. Jai, good day, mate.
What's going on, boys? How are you?
Oh, great to speak to you. It's been a while since I've seen you. So listen, what's coming up for you? This German challenger, Hussein Chinkara. Is he another one you're just going to brush aside?
Man, it's been weird, I've been finding out different things every now and then, finding on social media with who I'm fighting next. It's a bit of a journey, but what I've been told is I'm fighting Sin Cara next, and then I'm going to try and push that fight as early as I can, and then we're hoping to get Bill Smith on the undercard of Eubank and Connor Ben. So.
Right, so Bill Smith is the one you want, Jai, is it?
Well, I wouldn't say he's the one I want. I'm chasing belts. You know what I mean? I've been chasing these unification fights for such a long time now, and it's getting frustrating, but it is what it is. We're here now. But I feel like once I do what I got to do against Chris Bill Smith, I feel like it just won't be denied. They have to give me the shot. Everyone always talks about, he wasn't ready, he's too early, he's not good enough. But Bill Smith, I respect, Take care of business first, and then I'll fight him under the undercard. and let's go.
Okay, well, wait, if that did slip out, we apologise for Jai's language.
Jai, I know the ultimate goal for you is to become undisputed cruiserweight champion. We've talked in person before. You've talked about moving up to heavyweight as well. Do you feel that a lot of the cruiserweights have now gone up to heavyweight, that the timing might be now as opposed to waiting around for the Ramirez fight and, having to tread water, if you like, because you are seen as the best cruiserweight?
You're saying names. You're talking names. He's moved up. Undisputed. That's what I'm chasing. I want to call myself undisputed cruiserweight world champion. And then once it's done, then I can move up and I can, live my life. It is what it is. But I want to become undisputed cruiserweight world champion first.
And once you do that, once you achieve that and become undisputed...
Anyone can get it after that.
You're going straight up to heavyweight after?
Whoever. But right now, my eyesight's on belts.
Why are you not able to make them? I mean, we were talking to Mick yesterday, your manager, and he was talking about the dynamics of the fight tomorrow, and the fight that's coming up. He expects you to walk through that and deal with it, and I expect you to deal with this guy. He's 40 years of age. He's beneath your level. I think you'll blow straight through him. Why is Bilham Smith, who doesn't hold a belt, of particular appeal to you? I mean, Zerda Ramirez is the fight that you want.
Hey, these are the fights I want. Obviously I want the belts.
But why, Jai? Bilham Smith doesn't have any belts.
But I've been told. This is what I'm going off.
Yeah.
I can only tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I had the chance, obviously I'd pick a belt. But I feel like we got this in Cara. We have to take care of it mandatory. Let's do it. We'll push this fight as early as we can. We'll take care of business. So, and then I've been told there's a $1 million budget, right? A $1 million budget to be on an undercard of Eubank and Ben between me and Chris Bilham Smith. And they offered it 50-50.
We got that.
So if you, I mean,
need to watch your language, Jai. And I'm saying that from the safe distance of the UK as you're in Australia.
If you're wanting to fight on the Eubank Ben fight, when's that? November, Spence, or is it October?
November the 15th.
November the 15th. So you're going to have to be out pretty soon, Jai, aren't you, against this other guy?
Man, it is what it is. Like, this is the plan. If it all works in your favour, take it. Like, I've always backed myself. I'll do the hard work. Let's do it.
Do you think fighting Bilham Smith will be your hardest test? I think the fights that you had against Breeders were hard. I think most of the fights, with respect to you, Jai, I'm a big admirer of your talent. You've been on a level above these guys. Fighting Ellis Zorro and fighting Jack Massey, whilst you may respect them as fighters, they're not on your level and they've been easy night's work for you. Breeders was a different kettle of fish. Do you think Bilham Smith is a very difficult night's work for you?
I believe he's a hard fight. I believe he's a respectable fighter. But that's why I feel is when I fight him and I do what I do against him, they cannot deny it from there. Our unification has to come from there. Like what you're saying, I haven't fought him, he was too early. There's always an excuse because of what I do to him.
But everyone thinks you're the monster, Jai. So the only reason they're not getting a Ramirez fight is because they're ducking you.
So are they scared? Is that
that's the point, Jai, isn't it? But if you go and do a number on Chris Bilham Smith, do you think it's going to deal with him in no short order, which we'll debate whether you can or can't? How is Ramirez going to want to run into a ring with you after that?
Because he's a fighter. Yeah. We're fighters.
So is he not ducking you already, though?
Hey, I don't know.
Language. With the money side of the cruiserweights, that's what doesn't help it, does it? Because we're talking about someone of your stature going into a fight where there's only $1 million on offer, whereas in the heavyweights, you're going to get that for tune-up fights.
Hey, unification. We get the unification. Hey, these heavyweights they're always going to be there. This unification opportunity to call myself undisputed. Once I got the heavyweight, it's gone.
That's what you want.
It's gone.
And I might
once I tick that box as an undisputed cruiserweight.
There was another one. Jai, we're running out. What we have here is a dump button, and we've exhausted the number of dumps we've got. for any foul language, so we do apologise for that. Jai, I'm probably asking for major trouble in asking you this. You fear no one, don't you? Even at cruiserweight now, and if you go up to heavyweight, which we're sure you will, you fear absolutely no one, don't you? I've watched you. You destroy everything that's put in front of you.
That's not the fact. It's not about that. It's just I respect the sport, and I've fought my whole life. So I feel like the best should fight the best, and let's figure it out. You know what I mean? Want to fight,
Right.
That should push you towards it. So
Got you.
Let's go.
Jai, it's seldom I feel this relieved coming to the end of an interview, but we feel immensely relieved here in this part of the UK. And thank you. But in all seriousness, mate, thank you for joining us. Good luck against Hussein Shinkara. I feel for the fella, but there we go.
Appreciate it, boys. Thanks for having me.
Quick apology from me for any of Jai's language that may have offended you out there. It's 12:30.
What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've had a look. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on the side of a cliff in the Faroe Islands in Euro 2000 qualifying. The pitch at Toftir was like a cow field, never mind those gale force winds. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time, cue Scandi scenes. But away trips don't come tougher than playing Bolivia at altitude in La Paz. Or so we thought. The Bolivians have now taken home advantage to another level, literally 500 metres further up the Andes to the country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Meanwhile, the loudest stadium in world football officially is the Ali Sami Yen, where Galatasaray fans set a world record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead. But our most intimidating away day is in Wales. Prison team HMP Prescoed was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
It is Thursday lunchtime. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it is Spencer Oliver. And we're live in talkSPORT as we talk boxing, as we always do at this particular time in the week. And let me tell you guys, bare knuckle boxing returns to talkSPORT this Saturday night. This Saturday we have live bare knuckle boxing over on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. Former heavyweight boxer Lucas Brown is making his bare knuckle debut on the card, which is live from Bristol. I'm delighted to say we're going to be joined now by a gentleman who, one-time fighter, of course, of considerable repute. But he himself has got a bare knuckle boxing appointment very soon. In fact, in Leeds on October the 18th, when he's going to be taking on a man by the name of Tyler Goodjohn. Let's go all the way. We've been down under with Jai Opetaya, and that was eventful. Let's go all the way to New Jersey in the US of A and join Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie, how are you?
I'm all right, guys. How's it going? Good to be on.
Great, mate. Great to see you. You're outside enjoying some fresh air. The same Jai Opetaya joined us live a few moments ago, Paulie, and he turned the air blue with some of his language. We know we can trust in you.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm past that age already.
Good to speak to you. Listen, is this thing catching fire as we think it is? Bare knuckle boxing. Lucas Brown in action on the event that's coming up on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel, and that's from Bristol here in the UK. And then you're in action soon over here too.
Yeah. I think it's not only catching fire, but I think it's also something that I think the modern fight fan really enjoys and appreciates because, let's face it, pro boxing is obviously the gentleman's sport. Has been around a long time, and it is. I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, I have to say that's how I buttered my bread for a long time. But if you notice bare knuckle boxing, we live in a time with technology, everything is so fast. It's instant gratification, touch screens and swiping and scrolling. And I'll compare it with the fighting here, bare knuckle fighting. There's no feel out rounds in bare knuckle. You get straight to it right from round one, right? I mean, right from round one, if you notice a lot of the fights, there's no feel out round because any little punch can cut you, any little punch can bruise you. So you don't really have a chance for a feel out round in this sport. Things get right to the action. And it's just like the modern fan, the modern human being appreciates their life, instant gratification. They don't want to wait to break into the fight. They want the fight to start and enjoy themselves right away. And I think that is part of the reason. That psychology is part of the reason why bare knuckle fighting has sort of had this resurgence in the last decade. And little by little, it's getting to that big popular stage now.
Paulie, you had an incredible boxing career, winning world titles at 2 weights, and you had a long career as well. I understand this BKB and I understand the discipline that it is. It's a different combat. But why would you want to take part in it yourself? Like, what is the reasoning behind you going into it yourself?
There's several reasoning. One is the BKB has done a lot for me. I'm one of their pundits, and I've been one of their pundits for several years. They hired me at a time where, let's face it, there was a little bit of blackballing out there for me. It had happened to me with Showtime. It had happened to me with Sky in the UK. So I think that having companies like BKB, which at the time was BYB, and since then we've merged with BKB and become a bigger company overall. Having BKB, give me that opportunity. Also with ProBox TV, which I still currently work with as well. I think these two companies are really companies that really are dear to my heart because they were there at a dark time in my life. So I think giving it a chance to grow even stronger with the name recognition I can bring to it is one of the things that made me make the decision to do it this way. Also, we live in a time where a lot of things are expensive and life gets in the way, right? I at this point in my life, I live in America and I'm like, man, I would just love to be able to move back to Sicily. And I told my friends and family, I'm like, I think I can make a plan here. I think if I win a few fights, I can come back, win a few fights. I can actually pay off some mortgages here. I'm a little bit spoiled. Call me spoiled. Call me whatever you want. But I don't want to get rid of what I've got in America to move back to Sicily. But I'd like to keep what I got in America and move back to Sicily. So I don't know. Maybe I want my cake and eat it too. But if I can win some fights in BKB, I'll really make a little run here. I think I can be able to have my cake and eat it too. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Obviously that's a big thing. And then lastly, Spencer, it's just the opportunity to do this one last time. Being in my mid-40s, it's one last opportunity because I think if you pass this mid-40s age, I think your body starts to really eventually take a downturn. Not that you can't be healthy and be older, but you can't be healthy enough to be a pro athlete and be older once you pass this stage. So I was also one of those things where it's like I'm at the point in my life where if I'm going to make one last decision to do this before the ship has to sail completely, I have to do that right now. So it's I think those three things. It was a combination of those three things. It's funny because I've heard opinions on all of them, and I can't say anyone is right in particular, or anyone is wrong in particular. But I think it's a combination of those three things.
Paulie, your legacy is cemented in the boxing ring, well respected there, and you're a well respected commentator as well. If we look at recent names that have gone back into the BKB or bare knuckle boxing, whatever it is, that were former boxers, you're talking about Frankie Gavin, who was a former world amateur champion, but done well as a pro as well. He got knocked out in like 20 seconds. Hannah Rankin had a horrible knockout. She's a 3-time world champion as well. And you just go, why would you put your legacy on the line going back in at a stage where you go, you're not going to have improved from when you retired as a boxer, a few years ago. You're now mid-40s. Why would you put that reputation on the line?
Spencer, that's a great question, and those are really some really good comparisons. But I don't think that they apply here because I did a form of bare knuckle a few years back and I felt like I boxed pretty well. It's just I broke my hand and I didn't really get to show the entire repertoire. I ended up having to fight the majority of that fight with one hand. And I felt that even one-handed, I probably deserved that decision anyway. So I felt like really the fan base in bare knuckle hasn't seen the full potential regardless, right? Because you haven't seen me with two hands. And obviously, if I'm able to fight pretty well one-handed, imagine what I can do in a two-handed fight where I start to get my timing down and so on and so forth, So I think that for sure there's a part of the population that probably thinks they're going to expect to see what they're going to expect to see, but they don't. They don't because when you get me with two hands, I'm a different person. Yeah. As with any fighter, I think for that matter. But you have to be intelligent enough to understand that kind of simple logic. Secondly, when it comes to Gavin and Anna Rankin, no disrespect to them. I feel like I was always a higher level than fighters like that anyway. And I think when you look at some of the other fighters that have fought in bare knuckle in general, come back to this kind of sport in general. There's been some former boxers who've had very successful runs, either in BKB or the rival network, or the rival company, So I think that, there's boxers that do a really good job. Yes, I have a legacy. Yes, I mean, there's a history there where I'm a little bit more recognizable. But there's certainly good boxers that are even assigned to BKB that are very, very capable, and they've shown their boxing to be very, very capable.
I think, Paulie, you're very recognizable in that part of the world. Are you not? You're sitting there in a park in New Jersey with your hood up, hoping not to get recognized. Listen, I tell you what we'd love to do is we're going to have a quick break, and then we'll come back to you, because there's a bunch of things we want to get into, not least the super fight. Canelo Crawford on the way. Paulie, stay with us. Now then, more recently we were down under with Jai Opetaya, having quite an eventful chat with him. At the moment, we're in conversation, we being Jim White, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, in conversation with Paulie Malignaggi, one-time fighter, soon to be, again, bare-knuckle fighter. Paulie sitting chatting to us in a park in New Jersey, live on talkSPORT. Before, Paulie, you rejoin us. Before we get into the reasons why, who do you take to win this upcoming super fight, days away now? Crawford or Canelo?
It's interesting because I think that the only dynamic that makes this fight competitive, in my opinion, is the difference in weight class. I think Canelo has been, for a while, a diminishing fighter. Call it age, call it whatever other things you want to call it. But I just think that, the only reason he's even still around at this level is because he's avoided his top contenders in his weight class, so he's been able to still remain champion at that weight class. And now, being champion at that weight class, it has sort of brought up this big opportunity to fight a smaller, excellent world champion in Terence Crawford. So I think when it comes to the levels of boxing, just straight from boxing perspective, I think Crawford is head and shoulders above Canelo. But, they do make weight classes for a reason. Canelo is still very strong. He's a good body puncher, and he's a bigger guy naturally. So that does bring a bit of a risk to the table. I think Crawford can win the fight. I just wonder whether he can get a decision. That's always the question with Canelo, right? Can Canelo get a decision? I mean, can Crawford get a decision over Canelo? Can anybody get a decision over Canelo? We know Bivol did, but Bivol essentially won a 10-2, 11-1 fight, and they barely gave it to him.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Here's Spencer.
So that's.
Paulie, there's a lot made of, jumping up 2 weight divisions. We saw Sugar Ray Leonard do it against Marvin Hagler, and the greats can actually do that, can't they? And when you see them head-to-head, actually, Terence Crawford, he's filled out very, very well. And you're right, if it comes down to just weight divisions, because I think that Terence Crawford is head and shoulders above, as does Simon as well when it comes to boxing IQ and ring craft. But I go, when you look at it, and we're all talking about the weight division, that could be the factor. I don't see it being a factor.
Over the course of 12 rounds, I think it can be. If this is not like a street fight where it lasts a couple of minutes and then you're done anyway. Over the course of 12 rounds, I think it can be. But where I do agree with you, Spencer, is can Canelo track down Crawford in a way where he makes it physical, he makes it a bit tougher physically, and that's where I start to wonder. Okay, Crawford's boxing IQ may be so superior that it could be a different level, and it could affect him in a positive way, and Canelo may not even really be able to get to him, and that's where you start to think, okay, Crawford's boxing IQ may make it to another level. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think Crawford's a better boxer.
You think Crawford's a better boxer? Simon, a brief one on this with Paulie before we leave.
Oh no, I agree with a lot of what Paul said. But I was going to ask you, Paulie, when you made the observation about Alvarez ducking people, who are you talking about? You talking about Benavidez?
Benavidez and Morel, specifically, namely. But throughout his career, I felt like he always ducked the top guys in his weight classes. When Jamal Charlo was Jamal Charlo, and I'm not talking about the current Jamal Charlo, he was his mandatory at 160 pounds. Golovkin fought everybody except Charlo at 160. There was also a time where Demetrius Andrade was very, very dangerous and a very, very good fighter. And Canelo made like Demetrius Andrade didn't sell anywhere. But then he decided to fight Rocky Fielding or even Avni Yildirim, who also were completely unknown outside of wherever they were from. So I do think there's a bit of hypocrisy, and I get some criticism for it. But I do think there's been a bit of hypocrisy about Canelo. I also think that, he likes to fight smaller guys. I think of guys like Josecito Lopez, for example, who he fought years ago at 154 pounds. Josecito was a blown-up 140-pounder. Again, he'll avoid the biggest guys. He'll actually do what he blames Benavidez doing, which is, quote unquote, being a weight bully. He'll do that to other guys and actually bring them up in weight. I think he's doing that again here with Crawford. I think that's the only reason this fight is even an interesting fight is because, it's not really a matter of their boxing. I think Crawford's head and shoulders above him. It's just a matter of does Crawford's boxing ability compensate, overcome the weight disability.
Post-fight, what do the winners and losers do?
What
post-fight?
I think if Canelo has to win, he's going to have to cut off the ring, be pressure, and bring the fight to Crawford and trap him. To offset that, Crawford has to box and use his legs, but he can't run. He's got to box. If you start moving too much, you're going to wind up in flight and you're going to risk getting fatigued. I think one advantage Crawford has is he's a two stance fighter. He can fight at a right-handed stance, he can fight at a left-handed stance, and he's very, very slick out of both stances. And he's very, very deceptive out of both stances. I know Canelo has some good sparring partners that also switch in camp. I've heard he's got Darrell Valsaint in there, who's a very good prospect that I've seen fight several times. He's also got Jaron Boots Ennis, obviously. But Crawford has been sparring with Lester Martinez, who's got a great fight on the undercard, against Christian and Bealey on the same card, So their preparation, I think, is up to par.
Yeah.
Hopefully the fight lives up to it. But I'm looking more forward to the undercard. I'm looking forward to a Callum Walsh against Fernando Vargas Jr. And I'm looking forward to the aforementioned Lester Martinez fighting Christian and Bealey. I personally am more excited about those fights.
And Paulie, as Simon was asking, after this fight, Crawford and Canelo, what happens with both of them? Retirement?
Oh God. I mean, I pray to God I don't have to deal with Canelo taking on second-rate opposition again, like he's been doing, and just keeping belt hostages. So I do hope that it's better for boxing if Crawford beats him, and Crawford retires and vacates the titles, and then they become up for grabs in a very good 168-pound division where a lot of fighters probably are deserving of title shots and have not gotten them,
Okay.
If Canelo wins, though, I fear he'll go for somebody like another novelty fight, like a Chris Eubank Jr. fight or something like that, and just, waste a real boxing fan's time.
Paulie, Canelo's not on your list of favourite sportsmen, is he?
No, because I think when you have that kind of name, you have a responsibility to make things, the best for boxing, and I think he just looks out for Team Canelo instead of Team Boxing, and at a certain point, it is about money, but he's made so much money already. He really has a responsibility to help the sport, and he's doing anything but that. People like him are the reason people complain about boxing and say, "Oh, this is why MMA became more popular." Not to say that I have a competition with boxing and MMA, but those people have a point. In boxing, the best fights a lot of times don't get made, and people think of the biggest names possible when they think about that. And a guy like Canelo Alvarez has behaved exactly that way. David Benavidez was a mandatory for years.
That's right.
And he just kept avoiding him.
The bigger question in all this, Paul, is how can any broadcaster blackball you from broadcasting, given the fact you fill airtime like no one I've ever seen?
He's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's for them to understand and wonder. But for
Paulie,
me,
we love having you on, mate. We absolutely love having you on. Good luck with your return to bare knuckle boxing in Leeds on October the 18th against Tyler Gujon. And who knows what you pick up there, and thereafter you might just get that farmhouse in Sicily, mate.
I hope so, man. I look forward to getting there next month.
Good luck, Paulie. Paulie Malignaggi with us there. You're right, Simon.
But it's just brilliant content. And you can just sit back. We've had Paulie on Talk Boxing a few times. You just go, I can talk. But there's a masterclass going on here. Yeah. And what the content you're getting, it's unfiltered, it's thought through, it's encyclopedic, it's insightful, and it's brilliantly delivered. And it
could be you, really, couldn't it?
In his field, where he talks about boxing, it is first class,
isn't it? Another level.
It's another level.
Is, yeah.
Spencer, thank you as always.
Thank you, guys.
Magnificent. As for you, see you soon.
See me next week.
We are coming up to 1 o'clock this Thursday lunchtime. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, live on talkSPORT.